Chapter 335. Ah! Su Junqing screamed. Blood flowed from his head and his body trembled in pain. This was not enough. Yi Yunji crippled Su Junqing's dantian with a kick. Then she stabbed her fingers into his face like knives and injected the frigid corpse poison into him. Su Junqing felt like he had fallen into a bottomless ice cave. The pain on his face and body was enough to drive him crazy. He screamed and lost consciousness. Yi Yunji put Su Junqing down from the vine and threw him to the side like trash. Then she walked towards Yunjioga. "You let him go just like that?" Yunjioga glanced at Su Junqing. He saw that he had been hit by Yi Yunji's frigid corpse poison. Not only was his spirit cultivation destroyed, his face and body were covered in tumors. He looked more disgusting than a toad. It was a horrible sight. Letting him live is the most painful thing. Someone will take care of him when we get back. Yi Yunji's expression was calm. The beating just now had vented a lot of her anger. After knowing that Su Junqing's final outcome would be worse than death, she did not pay any attention to him. "Then what do you plan to do next?" Yunjioga asked. Yi Yunji's corpse control curse had been removed. She had regained her previous consciousness. She could choose a new path to live. Although Yin Corp's sect would still try to harm her if they found out, it would not be a problem if she found a place far away from Yin Corp's sect to live in seclusion. "I am already a dead person. I should go where the dead should go," Yi Yunji said calmly. "You want to die?" Yunjioga did not expect Yi Yunji to choose this path. "I died a long time ago. All that's left is a wisp of my soul. I won't last long." Yi Yunji was very calm about death. She had lived a failure in this life. There was nothing left for her. The only thing she was worried about was her younger brother, Yi Yu. She had committed heinous crimes, but her younger brother had never given up on saving her. Towards this younger brother of his, he really owed too much. "Junior brother Yunjioga, you are Yi Yu's friend. I want to ask a favor of you." Yi Yunji had never seen Yunjioga's real body. Naturally, she thought he was a man like the Yin Corp's sect disciples. "Please speak. As long as it is within my means, I will definitely not refuse," Yunjioga said solemnly. "I don't have anything on me. I don't have anything to leave for my little brother. The only thing I have is this Yin Corp's body, so I ask you to give my body to Yi Yu after my consciousness disappears." From now on, she would protect her little brother by his side, forever protecting him. "I can take you to find Yi Yu, but your face." Yunjioga was in a bit of a dilemma. He was afraid that the news would be leaked and lead to the Yin Corp's sect's pursuit. "You don't have to worry about that." Yi Yunji smiled and touched her forehead with her finger. Her hair, eyebrows, and eyelashes all turned snow-white. The dazzling red mole between her eyebrows instantly froze into an ice sculpture and fell into her palm. Her pale white skin slowly cracked, covered with countless small black cracks. She looked like a failed puppet, completely different from the beautiful Yin corpse from before. Yi Yunji reached out her cracked hand and dug out the treasure map from her right arm. Then she gave it to Yunjioga. "I'll ask you one more thing. Don't tell Yi Yu that this is my real body. Let him think that I'm already dead and that my corpse is buried in a sea of flowers. He knows that I love flowers the most." Yi Yunji revealed a grin, giving off an indescribably terrifying feeling. "All right." Yunjioga took the treasure map with a heavy heart. "This ice sculpture, help me give it to a disciple from the bloodthirsty sect called Thin Monkey. Although he isn't a good person, he treats me well." Yi Yunji gave the red mole that had turned into an ice sculpture to Yunjioga. During her days in the bloodthirsty sect, because she was worried that she would be sent to the blood cave as a cauldron, she lived in fear every day and night. It was Thin Monkey who gave her a trace of warmth in her darkest time. She always remembered this kindness. "In order to save you, Thin Monkey died after helping us break the sect protecting array. Yi Yu has already taken his ashes," Yunjioga said as he took the ice sculpture. Yi Yunji was stunned. After a while, she said, "Then I'll put this red mole into his ashes." "All right." Yunjioga nodded and then asked, "Is there anything you're worried about?" "Something I'm worried about?" Yi Yunji's eyes flashed with a trace of confusion. She had sealed her Yin energy in her right arm, so as long as she didn't use it, no one would discover her special physique. Everything that needed to be said had already been said. There was nothing she couldn't let go of. If there was anything she couldn't let go of, then there was only one thing. Yi Yunji's eyes fell onto Su Junqing, who was like mud in the corner. She gave a soft sigh and said, "After he's tortured, help me give him a release." "All right." Yun Jioga nodded. Yi Yunji really was a loyal woman. Even if she hated Su Junqing, she would still give him a trace of pity. Such a good woman, why was her life so bitter? "Thank you, you're also a good person." Yi Yunji left behind a final smile. Her black eyes gradually lost their light and she completely disappeared from this world. Yun Jioga looked at Yi Yunji with a sad expression. The only thing she could do now was to send Yi Yunji back to Yi Yu's side. But she didn't know how to send such a terrifying corpse to Yi Yu. She didn't know what he would think. Before Yun Jioga could think of a way, she heard Zi Shang seriously say from the side, "Quickly put her away, the Peach King is about to ripen." Yun Jioga turned to look and found that the Peach King had already turned into a perfect human figure. A tall nose, handsome eyes, perfect facial features, and a tall and slender figure. If it was placed in the human race, it would be a rare handsome man. It was a pity that the bloody aura on its body was incomparably thick. On the peach tree branch, the left half of the peach was condensed from blood, filled with a fierce aura, while the right half was carved from jade, filled with a delicious spiritual energy. The two colors did not have a clear boundary, rather they were fighting for territory in the middle. Sometimes it was red, sometimes it was green. But in general, the green color was at a disadvantage. "What do I need to do to help you?" Yun Jioga quickly used Su Junqing's corpse refining bag to put Yi Yunji away. "Just watch from the side," Zi Shang said as he placed his palm on the Peach King's chest. Noodles, the bloody aura on the Peach King's body found an outlet, and it was like a river bursting its banks, surging towards Zi Shang. The camouflage on Zi Shang's body was instantly destroyed. His long silver-gray hair became the white of moonlight, and a purple horn grew out of his head. His eyes became purple with vertical pupils, and his two long legs turned back into the shape of a snake, coiling tightly on the ground. The stench of blood was like a raging sea crashing onto his body, forcing him to retreat little by little. The entire underground cave was shaking, and countless rocks fell from the sky, as if it would collapse at any time. Chapter 336. Yun Jioga looked at Zi Shang nervously. She had received the consciousness of the human-faced Peach King before, so she knew that it was extremely painful when the bloodthirsty aura wreaked havoc in one's body. It could even drive one crazy. The human-faced Peach King could even distribute the pain to the branches of the peach forest. Zi Shang could only bear it alone, and it was even more painful. Although the human-faced Peach King and the secret realm were pitiful, Zi Shang was much more important to Yun Jioga than them. "I'm fine." Zi Shang could feel Yun Jioga's worry, so he turned and smiled at her. A drop of blood rolled down his pure white face. His smile was even uglier than crying. "Is this peach really that important? Is it more important than your life?" Yun Jioga looked at Zi Shang with heartache. His handsome and devilish face was covered in sweat. Even the scales on his tail had turned red. Strands of bloody aura emanated from his body. It was the bloodthirsty aura that was attacking crazily. No matter how strong its demonic body was, it could not endure such torture. Yet, the human-faced Peach King stood there as if nothing had happened. "What are you standing there for? If you don't think of a way to help him, we're all finished." Yun Jioga shouted angrily at the human-faced Peach King. After hearing Yun Jioga's words, the human-faced Peach King unwillingly spread its arms, spreading the bloodthirsty aura throughout the secret realm. Zi Shang's burden was relieved, and he immediately absorbed the aura. Very soon, the bloodthirsty aura on the human-faced Peach King's body disappeared completely. The peach on the red branch had turned completely green, giving off a fruity fragrance. The human-faced Peach King had also turned completely human. He had a head of light green hair, a tall and slender figure, and a grass skirt wrapped around his waist. His facial features were perfect, and he had a pair of green eyes. The pupils were the shape of two tender leaves, very similar to the leaves growing from Yun Jioga's arms. Why doesn't this peach have a human face? Yun Jioga did not pay attention to how perfect the human-faced Peach King was. What she was concerned about was that the peach that Zishang wanted so desperately looked different from the human-faced peach above. Those human-faced peaches are my branches. This is the real Jasper Spirit Peach that was cultivated from the secret realm's Ling Qi. The human-faced Peach King reached out and plucked the Jasper Spirit Peach, then handed it to Yun Jioga. Yun Jioga did not take it. Instead, he looked at Zishang. After all, this was a treasure that he had risked his life to obtain. Store it in a jade box. Zishang gestured to Yun Jioga. Yun Jioga immediately took out a jade box and put away the Jasper Spirit Peach. The human-faced Peach King reluctantly said to Yun Jioga, "This little secret realm is about to close completely. You guys should leave quickly." Just now, he had used his bloodthirsty aura to destroy all the restrictions left behind by the evil people and erase the coordinates of this mystic realm. In the future, he would completely leave the sight of the human race. Then what about you? Yun Jioga was a little worried that something would happen to the human-faced Peach King. After all, it had given her a wood spirit and a peach. I can't leave my main body yet. I'll be able to leave the small mystery realm after I've completely transformed. At that time, I'll look for you and repay you for saving my life. A gentle light flashed through the human-faced Peach King's green eyes. He really liked this girl called Yun Jioga in front of him. Her scent was very fragrant, and it could calm his raging heart. Unfortunately, that Yao called Zishang was too scary. Otherwise, he would really want Yun Jioga to stay behind to accompany him. Then I wish you all the best. Yun Jioga still didn't know that the human-faced Peach King had designs on her. She even politely gave her blessings. The human-faced Peach King immediately revealed a joyful expression. He nodded heavily and said, "Okay. I'll definitely look for you. It's getting late, let's go." Zishang grabbed Yun Jioga's shoulder with a possessive look and gave the human-faced Peach King a warning look. This damned peach dared to have designs on his wife. He would kill him sooner or later. "Alright, let's go." Yun Jioga didn't forget to bring the unconscious Su Junqing with her when she left. However, she wasn't willing to touch him directly, so she used a rope to tie him up and drag him to the ground. At this time, the human-faced mountain was already shaking, and the mountain rocks were collapsing. The entire small mystery realm was on the verge of destruction. The disciples of the Corps sect were so scared that their faces were pale. Many of them were paralyzed on the ground, waiting for death in despair. "Are we going to die here?" Little Fatty had a sullen expression. He still had a great life that he hadn't enjoyed yet. The Lu sisters didn't say anything. They only held each other's hands tightly. They were already very satisfied to be able to live and die together. The only pity was that they couldn't get revenge on their uncle's family. Ice Heart Lotus was still waving the frostbone spike in her hand as she fought. Wolf Fong, Bai Lan, and the Han brothers were also desperately looking for a way to leave, but they were disappointed again and again. Just as everyone was in despair, a clear voice rang out like the sound of nature, "Everyone, come quickly. There's a passage here that can leave." The people of the Corps sect raised their heads and saw Yun Jioga standing in front of a pitch-black spatial passage, waving at them desperately. At that moment, everyone remembered her bewitching and beautiful corpse poison face. They were so shocked that they froze on the spot. "What are you all standing there for? Come quickly!" Yun Jioga shouted again. Only then did everyone come to their senses. They rushed towards Yun Jioga, wailing like ghosts and howling like wolves. "What the hell are you squeezing? You'll only break the passage if you all rush in like a swarm of bees." One by one, the disciples of peak number 2 go in first, then peak number 1, peak number 3, peak number 4, peak number 5. If you don't King listen to me, believe it or not, I'll destroy the passage right now. Yun Jioga took out her bone spike and attacked Wolf Fong, the Han brothers, and Bai Lan. She was standing beside the passage now. A bone spike could disrupt the space and destroy the passage. Wolf Fong and the others immediately came to their senses. They restrained the disciples according to Yun Jioga's instructions and lined up obediently. "Senior brother Yun Jioga, aren't you leaving?" the Lu sisters asked. "You guys go first. I'll leave with senior sister Bai Lan and the others. Yun Jioga's words made the unwilling Bai Lan shut up. Just like that, all the disciples of the Ein Corps sect entered the spatial passage in an orderly manner under Yun Jioga's organization. The small mystic realm was completely closed. At that moment, Elder Whitebone and Elder Inkflower were drinking tea in the Inkflower Palace of the Ein Corps sect. Chosun really left for a long time this time. He even missed the opening of the small mystic realm. Elder Inkflower was already 500 years old. However, she had eaten a face-halting pill when she was young, so she still looked like a 16-year-old girl. Her skin was white and tender, her eyes were thin and long, and there was a tear mole on her left cheek. Although her looks were not peerlessly beautiful, she had a particularly seductive aura. That's nothing. That woman, Siyue, was beaten half to death in the Thunder Nation. Her demon corpse was also crippled, but he still didn't come back. Elder Whitebone was a bald man with thick eyebrows and big eyes. He wore a black robe and a necklace made of a string of small skulls hung on his chest. I heard that Chosun encountered an ancient ruin outside. He's probably busy searching for treasures. Elder Inkflower poured a cup of spirit tea for Elder Whitebone. I heard that too. However, as long as the curse on that guy isn't removed, he won't be able to advance no matter how many treasures he has. Elder Whitebone took a sip of the spirit tea and gave Elder Inkflower a piece of advice. Chosun has always been protective of his people. Be careful that he comes back to settle the score with you. Su Junqing and Siyue from the Inkflower Peak had an unclear relationship. Now that Siyue was seriously injured and unconscious, Jin Yanwei from the Cho Peak had come to ask Su Junqing about the situation several times, but was rejected by Elder Inkflower. When he returned, he would definitely complain to Cho Sr. We'll talk about it when the time comes. Elder Inkflower smiled. Su Junqing was not exactly a plaything to her. If Chosun insisted that she hand him over, it was fine. Seeing this, Elder Whitebone did not say anything else. He picked up his teacup and took another sip of spirit tea. At that moment, a violent wave suddenly came from outside. The teacup in his hand fell to the ground and shattered into countless pieces. Chapter 337. Something happened to the little secret realm. Elder Whitebones' figure immediately disappeared from the spot. Elder Mo Hua also hurriedly followed. A violent ripple came from the entrance of the Great Barren Mountain, as if someone had forcefully torn open a crack in space. It's not time yet. Why would the little secret realm open? Elder Whitebones' expression was extremely ugly. This little secret realm was extremely important to the Ein Corps sect, so the nascent soul-old ancestors of the sect worked together to set up a restriction that could only be opened with their special tokens. Not good. The restriction of the little secret realm is starting to disappear, and the coordinates have also disappeared. Elder Mo Hua calculated, and his expression immediately changed. The restriction had disappeared, and the coordinates had disappeared. Even if the nascent soul-old ancestors came, they would not be able to enter the little secret realm. Elder Whitebones' heart was also burning with anxiety, but the spatial distortion was so severe that he did not dare to barge in recklessly. At this time, the crack in the secret realm became larger and larger, and following that, a red aura spewed out, and countless Ein Corps sect disciples were spat out. Wolf Fang. Bai Lan. Elder Whitebones and Elder Mo Hua immediately saw the disciples of their respective sections. Master. Wolf Fang and Bai Lan had just landed on the ground, and were still dizzy and nauseous. What's going on? Elder Mo Hua stepped forward and sent Bai Lan flying with a slap. After landing, Bai Lan knelt down reflexively, and said hurriedly, Master, please don't be angry. This disciple also does not know what is going on. Elder Whitebones was much more lenient towards his own disciples. He first checked Wolf Fang's situation, and seeing that he was not injured, he asked, Where are the human-faced peaches? How many did you guys pick? Since they could not find the little secret realm, they should at least get their hands on the human-faced peaches first. Master, those human-faced peaches were all swallowed by a blood-red vine, and we only managed to pick a few with great difficulty. Wolf Fang took out his storage bag, and found that the human-faced peaches he had placed inside had disappeared without a trace, leaving only a handful of red powder. The Han brothers and the rest also hurriedly checked their own storage bags, and found that the same thing was happening. Elder Whitebones frowned as he looked at the red powder, and sent out a wave of divine sense to scan it. Elder Mo Hua also followed immediately. The divine sense of 2 golden core ancestors was not something that ordinary disciples could withstand. Many low-level disciples fainted due to the splitting headache, and the rest were covered in cold sweat with painful expressions on their faces. Yun Jioga lowered her head and mingled with the crowd. With Zi Shang by her side, the pressure of a golden core ancestor was really nothing. Bai Lan, tell me clearly, what exactly is going on? Elder Mo Hua's eyes swept across the area, and when he realized that there was no scent of the peaches, a furious expression appeared on his face. Master, after we entered the small mysterious realm, we found that the situation inside was very different from the information given by the sect. The demonic beasts became very ferocious and killed more than half of the disciples. Bai Lan quickly recounted everything that had happened, especially emphasizing that in order to complete the sect's mission, they had gone through all sorts of hardships to hunt demonic beasts, and even managed to ripen twice as many human-faced peaches as before. But in the end, they had all been swallowed up by a blood-colored vine. It's the human-faced peach king," a weak voice rang out. Elder Mo Hua could tell that it was Su Juanqing's voice and threw out a light lock to pull him out. But before he could reach her, he was once again flung out viciously. Su Juanqing landed on the ground with a thud. His body, which was already in intense pain, felt like it was falling apart. He struggled to get up from the ground, wanting to tell Elder Mo Hua about his encounter with the human-faced Peach King, as well as his experience of being betrayed by that bitch Yunji. But when he raised his head, he saw a look of extreme disgust in Elder Mo Hua's eyes, as if she was looking at trash. "Junior brother Su, how did you become like this?" Bai Lan also couldn't help but take a few steps back. The people around Su Juanqing all retreated as if they were afraid of being infected by the plague. What happened to me?" Su Juanqing still didn't understand what had happened. Although Yi Yunji had destroyed his spirit root and cultivation, he believed that as long as Elder Mo Hua was willing to help him, it would not be difficult to transplant a new spirit root. "See for yourself." Bai Lan shot out a crystalline image out of goodwill and landed in front of Su Juanqing. Su Juanqing raised his head and saw that the crystalline image reflected a strange face covered in yellow-green pustules, which oozed with a foul stench. He looked down in disbelief and found that his hands and body were also covered in the same pustules. "Impossible, this isn't me, this definitely isn't me." Su Juanqing desperately shook his head, wanting to get away from the image, but he tripped over a rock and fell to the ground. The nearby disciples immediately scattered, each one of them revealing a disgusted expression. The Lu sisters even said in a small voice, "So disgusting." "That's right, I want to vomit when I see it." Su Juanqing was about to go crazy. He had always been confident in his looks and body. He had indeed used his good looks to obtain many benefits from women. Now that he had become like this, he definitely couldn't accept it. "Master, save me." Su Juanqing fearfully reached out his hand towards Elder Mo Hua for help. "Where's your life source in corpse?" Elder Mo Hua glanced over and found that Su Juanqing's corpse refining bag and storage bag had disappeared. "She betrayed me." Su Juanqing thought about how his current misery was caused by Yunji. His eyes immediately filled with a bone-deep hatred. "She's being controlled by someone?" Elder Mo Hua was doubtful. The strongest people that entered the small secret realm were at the Foundation Establishment realm. It was impossible for them to steal the corpses of cultivators of the same level. "No, she's become a living corpse." Su Juanqing shook his head. "Living corpse?" Elder Mo Hua was shocked. "Tell me in detail." Elder Whitebone's eyes flashed with an indescribable glow. Ain spirit Dao body that had become a living corpse, that was the most powerful corpse. This kind of treasure, even if they had to fall out with Mo Hua, they had to take it back. Su Juanqing didn't even have time to speak before Elder Mo Hua's eyes flashed with a fierce glow and he reached out his hand. An ink-black yin qi condensed into a large hand that covered Su Juanqing's head, instantly piercing through his entire body. Su Juanqing's eyes were filled with blood, his eyeballs popped out, the veins on his face and neck popped out, those pustules popped out. Yun Jioga's heart was shocked. At first he thought that Elder Mo Hua wanted to save Su Junqing, but after seeing the situation clearly, he knew that Elder Mo Hua had actually used the soul-searching technique on Su Junqing. This soul-searching technique was a kind of tyrannical evil cultivation technique. It was specially used to gather information. It said that people who were hit by this cultivation technique would feel like their brain was being repeatedly stirred by a knife. Not only was it very painful, they would also become a cripple after using it. Elder Mo Hua was truly ruthless, making a move without saying a word. Yun Jioga finally understood what Yi Yunji meant when she said someone would take care of Su Junqing. Being tortured by the soul-searching technique, it was definitely 1,000 times more painful than being beaten to death. Chapter 338. Elder White Bones waited for Mo Hua to finish searching before asking, "How is it?" "See for yourself." Elder Mo Hua withdrew her hand gloomily. She had already found out the whole story from Su Juanqing's soul. Although the human-faced Peach King and Yi Yunji were both good things, it was too painful for them to be left in the small secret realm. Such a painful thing naturally had to be shared with others. Elder Whitebones also used the soul-searching technique on Su Junqing. When he saw the human-faced Peach King and Yi Yunji, he couldn't help but reveal an expression of wild joy. But when he saw the small secret realm collapse, he instantly fell from the clouds. He was so angry that he wanted to smash Su Juanqing's soul with one palm. Keep his soul. When the sect leader and Chosen asked, let them search it themselves. This time, the small secret realm was sealed, and the Yin Corpse sect suffered heavy losses. The sect leader would definitely ask. She and White Bones were responsible for this matter and couldn't escape responsibility. Rather than wasting time explaining, it was better to let them search his soul themselves. Elder Mo Hua took out a soul-collecting bottle and kept Su Juanqing's soul in it. His body was burnt to ashes by a fire. Su Junqing really can't live this time. Zishang sometimes admired the creativity of the human race. When it came to torturing people, they were indeed skilled. Yun Jioga was deeply convinced. Although Yi Yunji begged her to free Su Junqing after he was tortured, this was just the beginning. They would talk about it after he was tortured for a while. But after Elder Cho Sen and the sect leader tormented him a few times, Su Juanqing's soul probably wouldn't be left. All of you, open your storage bags. Elder Mo Hua was still unwilling to give up. Although the human-faced Peach King was left in the secret realm, someone might pick up the corpse refining bag and bring Yi Yunji out. After Wolf Fong, Bai Lan, and the rest saw Su Juanqing's miserable state, not many dared to resist. All of them obediently opened their own storage pouches and held them in their hands. Yun Jioga was the same. Anyway, the corpse refining bag and Su Juanqing's storage bag, as well as her valuable possessions and pets were all with Zishang. At this moment, her storage bag only had some pills, a few bone spikes, a corpse-controlling bell, and a few thousand spirit jades from selling the beast-attracting incense. The people present were all Qi condensation disciples, and none of them were good people. Only Wolf Fong and Bai Lan's storage bags were worth looking at. In particular, the set of evil weapons in Wolf Fong's hands was not bad. However, Elder White Bones would not go to the extent of laying his hands on his disciple for such a small thing. Elder White Bones and Elder Mo Hua scanned the area with their divine senses and had to admit that the corpse refinement bags were not in the hands of these disciples. Mo Hua Chang's heart ached at the thought that his famous magic weapon, the demonic flower bone spike, was missing. Fortunately, it wasn't like he didn't gain anything. At least she found a talent in Su Juanqing's place and could recruit him into her ink flower palace. Yun Jioga could clearly feel Elder Mo Hua's gaze landing on her. Yun Jio, right? Elder Mo Hua walked in front of her and asked. Raise your head. Yun Jioga had no choice but to raise her head. However, she still looked down. She was worried that Elder Mo Hua would see through her disguise. Young lad, you're not bad. Come back to the ink flower peak with me later. The ink flower elder did not see through Yunjioga's true body and was very satisfied with her bewitching appearance. Junior brother Yunjio will be on the same peak in the future, Bai Lan immediately said with a smile. The other disciples all had complicated expressions. Some were envious, but most were sympathetic. Usually, inner sect disciples only accepted foundation establishment cultivators. No matter how strong one's connections were in the sect, one had to start as an outer sect disciple. The ink flower peak was naturally no exception. Elder Mo Hua had taken Yunjioga in as a boy toy in the beginning. When his cultivation level increased, he would then become a disciple. However, Elder Mo Hua had always been very good to her children. Just look at Su Junqing. Therefore, people who wanted to reach the heavens in one step would be envious of her. Yunjio appreciates Elder's kindness. However, my cultivation level is still low. I want to stay in the outer sect to continue cultivating. Yunjioga rejected Elder Mo Hua's invitation without hesitation. Even a real man would not want to be the boy toy of an old witch, much less a fake man. Have you thought it through? Elder Mo Hua's deep voice was filled with pressure. Although she did not completely release the aura of a gold core ancestor, it was enough to make the Qi training stage disciples tremble. The Lu sisters and Ice Heart Lotus were worried for Yunjioga. They were afraid that Elder Mo Hua would kill her in a fit of anger. Although Yin Corp's sect forbade internal strife, that was only for normal disciples. To a gold core ancestor, killing a few outer sect disciples was as easy as killing a few chickens. Not only would the sect not pursue the responsibility of the gold core ancestor, it would also blame the outer sect disciples for being blind and offending the gold core ancestor. I have already thought it through. Yunjioga was neither servile nor overbearing. He did not care about Elder Mo Hua's anger at all. Good, very good. Elder Mo Hua laughed. She had been in Yin Corp's sect for so many years. This was the first time she had seen such a courageous youth. It was really interesting. She decided to play with this youth and teach him how to survive in the Yin Corp sect. Bai Lan looked at Yunjioga sympathetically. She somewhat admired her courage but also sneered at her ignorance. Offending a gold core ancestor was definitely fatal. If she obediently gave in now, she could still get more benefits. If she came back to beg after being tortured to the point of death, her value would drop greatly. Sigh, she was still too inexperienced. All right, everyone has worked hard in the small mystic realm. Go back and rest. Elder Whitebones said in a good mood. Every year, the disciples who came out of the small mystic realm alive would become the pillars of the sect. This time, it was a good thing that so many people came out alive. The sect had gained a lot of manpower. Thank you, Elder. After Wolf Fong and the Han brothers thanked Elder Whitebones and Elder Blackflower in unison, they walked towards their respective outer sect peaks. The originally popular Yunjioga was now completely empty. No one dared to approach her. Ice Heart Lotus wanted to go over, but she was held back by Little Fatty. The Lu sisters acted as if they didn't know Yunjioga at all and hurriedly went back. If it was someone else being isolated like this, they would probably feel lonely, fearful, and angry. However, Yunjioga did not feel anything with Zishang by her side. She could understand why the Lu sisters and Little Fatty were like this. After all, Elder Mo Hua was powerful. It was easy for him to take care of them. Avoiding her was the wisest move. At this moment, Zishang suddenly whispered in Yunjioga's ear, "When we go back, this sovereign will give you a peach. You're willing to share it with me?" Yunjioga was slightly surprised. Although Zishang would always think of her when there were benefits, this Jasper Spirit Peach was something that he had risked his life to obtain, so she felt ashamed to accept it. Chapter 339. If it was someone else, I would definitely not give it to them. However, for you, let alone a Jasper Spiritual Peach, even if you want to eat my heart, liver, and lungs, I would be willing, Zishang said with a grin. Yunjioga couldn't help but roll her eyes. Zishang was always like this. You could never guess whether he was telling the truth or lying. Sometimes she could feel that Zishang liked her, but sometimes she felt that Zishang was only with her for the sake of sex. So, she had very complicated feelings towards Zishang. Sometimes she really didn't want to talk to him. The two of them quickly returned to their cottage. After Zishang quickly set up a formation, he took out the jasper spirit peach and let Yunjioga eat it. "Are you giving it all to me?" Yunjioga asked hesitantly. "Of course." Zishang risked his life to get this peach for her. "This is too expensive." Yunjioga was a little hesitant. "It's okay. After you eat it, let's do dual cultivation immediately. It'll be good for me too," Zishang said. Yunjioga was a little embarrassed at first, but after hearing Zishang's words, she immediately disappeared. In the end, he just wanted her to pay with her body. It'll be a waste not to eat it." Yunjioga picked up the jasper spirit peach and ate it in big mouthfuls. To be honest, the taste of this jasper spirit peach was too delicious. As soon as it entered her mouth, it turned into a stream of extremely pure spiritual energy that gently washed over her body. She felt as if she was soaking in warm spring water on a cold day. Her whole body felt comfortable. Zishang looked at Yunjioga gently with a faint smile on his lips. It seemed that just watching Yunjioga eat was enough for him. After eating, "Let's do dual cultivation." Although Yunjioga was grateful to Zishang, she wasn't used to saying sweet words. After putting away the rest of the peach, she put on a businesslike expression and prepared to start cultivating with Zishang. "There's no rush. You've just eaten, take a rest first." Zishang, who was usually more anxious than anyone else, pulled Yunjioga's hand and lay down on the bed. Yunjioga also felt that it wasn't good to exercise immediately after eating, so she lay down with him and accidentally fell asleep. Zishang propped up his head with his elbow and carefully looked at Yunjioga. The demonic face that had been poisoned by the corpse poison was completely different from the pure and holy witch in his memory, but the smell on her body was so familiar. He planted a gentle kiss on Yunjioga's forehead and then slowly moved down, like a feather lightly brushing past. It was a grateful, intimate, and reassuring kiss. Yunjioga was in a daze, but he still responded to Zishang's kiss subconsciously. The two of them hugged and kissed intimately, and naturally, they had intercourse. After Yunjioga woke up, he felt very comfortable. The dual cultivation this time was especially gentle and harmonious, making her feel a sense of security. She did not know whether Zishang loved her or not, but it was true that he treated her well. Moreover, Zishang's attitude towards her had changed a little. He was a little more gentle and considerate towards her. Although Yunjioga didn't know what was going on, he was very satisfied. More importantly, the 9-layer bone shatterer poison in her dantian was finally removed by 1 layer, leaving only 5 layers. Zishang looked at Yunjioga with a gentle smile on his face. At this time, the defensive array formation set up in the house rippled. Zishang glanced outside and said, "That little fatty Jin Lin is looking for you, and he brought someone with him." As soon as he finished speaking, there was a knock on the door. Yunjioga got up and opened the door. She saw Little Fatty and a middle-aged man with mid-stage foundation establishment cultivation standing outside. The middle-aged man had a long and thin face. Although he looked handsome, there were faint wrinkles between his brows. He looked like a serious person. "Uncle, this is senior brother Yunjio. Thanks to him, I was able to come out of the small mystic realm alive." Little Fatty introduced them. "Senior brother Yunjio, this is my uncle, Jin Chuan." Disciple greets Senior Jin Chuan. Yunjioga cupped his hands and bowed. "Let's talk inside." Jin Chuan walked towards Yunjioga's house. He was obviously a powerful person. "Sorry, my uncle is a little impatient." Little Fatty smiled at Yunjioga sheepishly. "It's fine." No matter how unhappy Yunjioga was, she wouldn't give Little Fatty a hard time. Little Fatty saw that she looked calm and didn't seem to have a grudge. Then he mustered up his courage and said, "Senior brother Yunjio, don't blame me and the Lu sisters for ignoring you just now. We really didn't dare to offend Elder Mo Hua. It's human nature to protect oneself. I understand that." Yunjioga nodded. Little Fatty and the Lu sisters had low cultivation levels. They couldn't even be crushed by a finger of Elder Mo Hua. It was ridiculous to expect them to stand up for him. When Jin Chuan heard Yunjioga's words, he frowned and said, "I think you're a reasonable person. Why would you reject Elder Mo Hua?" "Senior Jin Chuan, Are you here to persuade Elder Mo Hua? He didn't look like a pimp. Just now, Elder Mo Hua gave an order to the mission hall. He forbade the mission hall from giving you any missions. He also forbade the outer sect disciples from forming a team with you. Jin Chuan repeated Elder Mo Hua's order with a straight face. Senior brother Yunjiao, if you can't accept missions, you can't enter the Yin Qi cemetery to collect Yin Qi. If you can't collect Yin Qi, you can't refine pills and cultivate. How are you going to survive in the Yin Corpse sect? Little Fatty's face was full of worry. It was as if he was the one being forced. I have my ways. You don't have to worry about that. Yun Jioga's plan was to leave the Yin Corpse sect to lie low. She would first send Yi Yunji's body to Yiyu. Then, she would return to Thunder Country to visit Mother Qing and the others. She had been away for half a year. She didn't know what was going on in Thunder Country. If she had the chance, she wanted to go to the 100,000 Mountains to find Luo Tian and Junichen. You want to leave the Yin Corpse sect to cultivate outside? Jin Chuan saw through Yun Jioga's thoughts. Yes. Didn't they say that disciples in the 5th stage of weapon refining stage can go out to cultivate? This was a rule set by the sect leader. Even if Elder Mo Hua wanted to go against her, he couldn't openly oppose it. Otherwise, he would be embarrassing the sect leader. The sect leader personally gave the order. He said that all disciples participating in the small mystery realm must be investigated in the sect. They are not allowed to go out. You can't go against the sect leader. Take care of yourself. Jin Chuan stood up and left. The fact that he had personally come to talk to Yun Jioga about this was already because of Little Fatty. Senior brother Yun Jio, think about it. Anyway, I won't dare to come here openly in the future. If there is any news, I will think of a way to inform you. Little Fatty lowered his voice and said, Thanks. Yun Jioga patted Little Fatty's shoulder. It was rare for him to be so considerate. That's right. Ice Heart Lotus originally wanted to come find you. However, he was locked up by his sister-in-law to cultivate. He told me to tell you not to be angry at him. Little Fatty thought of something else. Tell him to cultivate in peace. Otherwise, he will also be captured and sent to Inkflower Mountain. Yun Jioga joked. Although Ice Heart Lotus was a little feminine, he was really beautiful. Maybe one day, Elder Mo Hua would like him if he wanted to change his appetite. Chapter 340. Hee, I'll definitely help you pass on this message to him. Little Fatty saw that Yun Jioga wasn't angry at the Ice Heart Lotus, so he happily left. Yun Jioga sent Fatty off and had just returned to the house when someone knocked on the door again. She opened the door and saw Wolf Fong, dressed in black, standing at the door. I have something to talk to you about. Let's talk inside. Wolf frowned. It was obvious that the matter was very urgent. Come in. Yun Jioga brought Wolf Fong into the house and was about to pour him some hot tea. No need. After Wolf waved his hand to reject, he went straight to the point and said, I heard that you have a mysterious white bone monkey. The news travels fast. Yun Jioga smiled as he poured himself a cup of tea and drank it. She knew that it was impossible for the disciples of Peak No. 2 to help her hide this matter, but she did not expect that they would betray her so quickly. Paper can't wrap fire. As the No. 1 outer sect disciple, Wolf Fong was not only famous in Peak 1, he also had some eyes on Peak 2. But this time, the informant told him about this matter because he wanted to beg him to save Yun Jioga. The informant felt that Elder White Bones was better than Elder Black Flower. At the very least, he would not let Yun Jioga sleep with him. If it fell into Elder Mo Hua's hands, Yun Jioga would lose both his life and his wealth. We'll see if we can't, Yun Jioga said indifferently. You won't be able to keep the mysterious white bone. Why don't you offer it to my master and become his disciple? With me looking after the White Bone Peak, your days won't be too difficult. Wolf Fong was truly concerned for Yun Jioga. His master's nickname was White Bone because he was especially knowledgeable about spirit bones. If he knew of the existence of the mystic white bone monkey, he would definitely snatch it back. I appreciate senior brother Wolf Fong's good intentions, but the profound white bone monkey is very important to me. I don't want to give it away. Yun Jioga had raised the profound white bone monkey for so long and he had feelings for it. How could he bear to give it away? Wolf looked at Yun Jioge with disapproval. Seeing her determined expression, he hesitated for a moment before lowering his voice and saying, "If you don't want to go to White Bone Peak, why don't you try other places?" "Where?" Yun Jioge raised his eyebrows and asked. Wolf dipped his finger in the tea and wrote the words, "Enemy Peak," on the table. He had no choice. His master was determined to obtain the mystic White Bone Monkey. If he were to find out that he was actually encouraging Yun Jioge to go somewhere else, he would definitely be beaten to death. It was only because Yun Jioge had saved him several times that he took such a risk to persuade her. Elder Chosen also wants the mystic White Bone Monkey. Yun Jioge had never heard of Elder Chosen's research on spirit bones. No, isn't his disciple, Siyue, seriously injured and unconscious? If you can help him wake her up, he should protect you. Wolf Fong was just giving Yun Jioge a suggestion. Elder Chosen's background was also very complicated. It was said that he was originally at the late Golden Core stage, but when he was trying to break through to the nascent soul stage, he was plotted against. His body shrunk to the size of a child, and his cultivation regressed to the middle Golden Core stage. But even so, he was still one of the most powerful elders in the Corpse sect, and even the sect master was very afraid of him. His bloodthirsty bat bone spikes were extremely powerful. The most terrifying thing was that although he had many corpses, no one had ever seen his life source corpse. It could be imagined just how terrifying his strength was. Many thanks, senior brother, I will consider this. Yun Jioge seriously nodded. Now that she had offended Elder Mo Hua and Elder Whitebone, she had to think of a way to survive in the Corpse sect. Although Siyue had harmed her before, if she could use Siyue to stir up this mess, then she could postpone her revenge. I heard that Elder Chosen will be back in 7 days. You should prepare early. I'm afraid that the matter of the mystic White Bone Monkey can't be hidden for a few days. Wolf Fong said in a serious tone. The disciples of the second peak were all shocked and afraid, so no one thought of betraying Yun Jioge for benefits. But it was hard to say when they calmed down. Many thanks for senior brother Wolf Fong's advice. I know what to do. Yun Jioge thanked him again and again before sending Wolf Fong away. His method is indeed feasible. Zi Shang suddenly said. What method? Yun Jioge didn't come back to her senses. Save Siyue. Only by making things more chaotic and involving more people would Yun Jioge have a chance of staying in the Corpse sect. I think so too. Yun Jioge nodded. If she had only offended Elder Mo Hua, she could still delay for a while. But with Elder Whitebone, it would be troublesome. If she couldn't deal with them, she could only run. Pack your things first, I will go out and take a look. After Zi Shang finished speaking, he turned invisible. Yun Jioge began to pack the things in the house. After half an hour, Zi Shang appeared in front of Yun Jioge and said, Elder Whitebone and Old Witch Mo Hua are busy dealing with the small mystic realm and haven't received any news about the mystic White Bone Monkey. You can still make it if you go to Enemy Peak now. Alright, what's wrong with Siyue? Yun Jioge had never asked about this. I only used my demon power to seal her consciousness. You will naturally be able to undo it when you go. However, he had already heavily injured Siyue's consciousness. Even if he could save her, he would be an idiot. Then let's go now. Yun Jioge left the house and walked towards Enemy Peak. Enemy Peak was located in the north of the Corpse sect. The entire mountain was hundreds of meters tall. The mountain was lush with spirit trees and murmuring water. One could even see long-eared rabbits, petal deer, and other spirit beasts. Not only did it not look like an evil mountain, it looked more like an immortal's residence. Elder Chosen had not returned with his 2 disciples. The one in charge now was his other personal disciple, Jin Yanwei. Hearing that Yun Jioge had come, he was a little curious and asked his disciple to bring her in. Yun Jio greets senior brother Jin. Yun Jioge cupped her fists and bowed to Jin Yanwei. Junior brother Yun Jio, you don't have to be so polite. Sit. Jin Yanwei invited Yun Jioge to sit and sized her up secretly. He saw that the youth in front of him was not tall, but his figure was very straight. Although his facial features were very delicate and slightly feminine, Because of the corpse poison, his demonic red eyes and purple lips diluted the femininity, making him look very evil. One look and it was obvious that he was an evil disciple. Yun Jioge was also secretly sizing up Jin Yanwei. This personal disciple of Elder Chosun was already at the late stage of foundation establishment at such a young age. It was said that he was the most outstanding genius of the In Corps sect in the past 100 years. Like Elder Chosun, he was born with In spirit roots. Although this identity sounded awesome, because Jin Yanwei had a cute baby face and eyes that were clean and clear, it was obvious that he was well protected. Therefore, it was greatly discounted. However, it was also very possible that Jin Yanwei was pretending to be naive. After all, evil disciples were the best at this. Chapter 341. Junior Yunjiu, why have you come to our enemy peak? Jin Yanwei asked politely. He was now in charge of enemy peak, so he was well informed. He naturally knew that Elder Mo Hua had taken a fancy to this young man. I heard that senior sister Yue was poisoned and unconscious, so I wanted to recommend myself. Yun Jioge went straight to the point. You know how to cure poisons? Jin Yanwei raised his eyebrows in surprise. I know a thing or two. If you trust me, why don't you let me try? Yun Jioge said calmly. All right, I'll let you try. Jin Yanwei was straightforward. He had invited many spirit doctors and alchemists to check on Yue, but all of them said that the poison was very strange and none of them could cure it. Seeing that his master was about to return, he was worried. Since someone voluntarily came to help, then let's give it a try. Anyway, it's like trying everything in a desperate situation. After Yue was sent back, she was placed in a remote courtyard at the back of enemy peak. Only 2 maids were assigned to take care of her. The 2 maids were in their late 20s and looked thin and weak. When they saw Jin Yanwei, they silently knelt in the corner. Junior Yunjiu, see for yourself. Jin Yanwei waved at the 2 maids, then sat down on a chair. Yue wore a brand new green dress, her hands crossed over her abdomen. Her expression was serene, and her skin was rosy and glowing. She was even more beautiful than before. Yun Jioge reached out to take her pulse, and suddenly felt that something was wrong. Yue had been unconscious for so long, and her dantian should be very empty. How could it be so full? This was clearly a symptom that would only appear after she had fused with her body. What kind of beast was it, to not even let go of an unconscious woman? How was this different from a female corpse? Could it be Jin Yanwei's doing? Junior Yunjiu, do you see anything? Jin Yanwei noticed that Yun Jioge was looking at him strangely, and could not help but ask. Oh, I'm just amazed that senior brother Jin has taken good care of her. Senior sister Yue is still so energetic after being unconscious for so long. Yun Jioge probed, wanting to see Jin Yanwei's expression. Junior Yunjiu, you flatter me. Do you have a way to cure her poison? Jin Yanwei's expression did not change. He was in charge of enemy peak and was so busy every day that he did not even have the time to arrange for someone to be the leader of a small mystical realm. How could he have the time to care about Yue? In any case, as long as he could keep her alive and wait for his master to return, it would be fine. He really didn't care whether she was all right or not. The poison in senior sister Yue's body is more complicated. It can't be removed in a short period of time. I'll perform acupuncture on her later to see how the situation goes, Yun Jioge said readily. All right, then I'll arrange a house for you here. You can stay and take care of her. Jin Yanwei was also straightforward. Thank you, senior brother Jin. Yun Jioge had not expected Jin Yanwei to be so easy to talk to. Don't worry, stay here. If you have any requests, let the 2 maids tell me. I still have things to do, so I'll take my leave. Jin Yanwei gave Yun Jioge a few words, then turned and left. He did not even look at Yue. Take care, senior brother. Yun Jioge closed the door after sending Jin Yanwei off. In the blink of an eye, only she and Zishang were left in the room. Yun Jioge turned to ask Zishang, do you think this is Jin Yanwei's doing? Zishang was standing next to Yue's bed. His coquettish face had a hint of displeasure, as if he wanted to kill Yue with a finger. Hearing Yunjioga's words, Zishang did not turn his head and said, "It's not him, he's still a virgin." Yunjioga almost choked. Virgin boys in evil sect were probably as rare as virgins in brothels, let alone someone of Jin Yanwei's status. To be able to manage enemy peak after Elder Chosen left, it meant that he was deeply trusted by Elder Cho Senator. It was very easy for him to use his power to get some benefits. Yunjioga did not expect him to still be a virgin. Could it be that his cultivation method was special? What's there to be surprised about? This is Een Corp's sect, not Joyous Union sect. Your lackeys are still virgins. Zishang rolled his eyes at Yunjioga, then continued to stare at Siyue. Which of my lackeys are still virgins? Yunjioga moved to Zishang's side and asked in a gossipy manner. What do you think? Zishang narrowed his eyes at Yunjioga, a dangerous expression flashed across his face. Yunjioga did not notice the danger and guessed with interest, Ice Heart Lotus must be it, Little Fatty might be it, but Wolf Fong doesn't look like it. Zishang did not speak and just looked at Yunjioga. This damn girl was so concerned about Een Corp's sex virgins. Could it be that she wanted to personally pluck them? Yunjioga guessed halfway and finally realized that Zishang's expression was not right. She immediately changed the topic. Aren't we talking about Siyue? If it's not Jin Yanwei, who do you think it is? Although Siyue had harmed her and she hated Siyue, as a woman, seeing Siyue unconscious and being fucked by a man made her feel disgusted and uncomfortable. I don't know, but this man is not just sleeping with her, he is saving her. Zishang said gloomily. Previously he used his demonic power to seal Siyue's divine sense. As long as there was no one to remove it, he would continue to devour her divine sense and turn her into an idiot. But now, the demonic power he sealed Siyue was actually loosening. At this rate, Siyue would wake up sooner or later. Then let's just wake her up. Otherwise, if the credit was stolen by someone else, how could she use enemy peak? No rush, I want to see who is so daring to ruin my plans, Zishang said with narrowed eyes. Okay. Yunjioga expressed her agreement, but she purely wanted to know which man was so deeply in love with Siyue that he was willing to sacrifice himself to save her. Enemy Peaks Hall. When Elder Chosen's disciple, Manager Chin, found out that Jin Yanwei was going to take Yunjioga in, he asked worriedly, "Will you offend Elder Mo Hua by taking Yunjioga in?" Hey, is our enemy Peak afraid of that old witch? What's more, junior brother Yunjio came to us voluntarily. We are all from the same sect, so what's wrong with me taking him in? Jin Yanwei wasn't just doing it because Elder Mo Hua was protecting Su Junqing and making him lose face. Ever since he heard that the small mystic realm had mysteriously disappeared, he felt that this matter was not normal. Unfortunately, as a substitute disciple, he didn't care about Elder Whitebones and Elder Mo Hua, so he wasn't willing to divulge a lot of information. He wanted to leave Yunjio in enemy peak and wait for his master to return so that he could get some information from him. Alright, then I will send more people to set up defenses. Manager Chen didn't say anything else. Now that Jin Yanwei was the substitute peak master, as a manager, all he had to do was properly assist him. Chapter 342. After Manager Chen left, Jin Yanwei was still worried, so he took out the communication talisman his master had left him and explained the matter. His master quickly replied, telling him to keep Yunjio at all costs. When Jin Yanwei saw that even his master supported him, he was even more at ease. He immediately went out to personally take charge of the defense. Elder Mo Hua had always been domineering. It was not impossible for him to come to enemy peak to snatch her away. He had to be prepared. Enemy peak was on full alert. Yunjioga was not idle either. She was busy examining Siyue. Originally, she had only planned on undoing Zishang's demonic power seal, but she had not expected to find another problem. Did you cause this injury? Yunjioga suddenly found a bruise in Siyue's memory center. This kind of injury often came with memory loss. What injury? Zishang went over to take a look and said, "This is an old injury from over 10 years ago. It has nothing to do with this sovereign." Over 10 years ago? Yunjioga had heard Little Fatty say that Siyue had joined the Een Corp's sect 12 years ago. Had she lost her memory then? Why do you care so much? Just wake her up. In his opinion, he should have turned Si Yue into an idiot with a finger. She is an important tool for us now. What's the use of turning into an idiot? Yun Jioga was very open-minded. Since he had already saved her, he naturally had to be a good person to the end. As for the grudges at Blood Cloud Peak, he would settle them in the future. Zi Shang was not too concerned about this. He was more concerned about the flower thief who had ruined his plans. Yun Jioga did not say anything more to Zi Shang. After she understood the condition of the bruise in Si Yue's brain, she took out the Thunderfire needle and started acupuncture. Dense needle shadows with a bit of thunderfire and green light landed on Si Yue's head and face. The domineering light of the thunderfire crushed over, while the light of the wood spirit followed behind to clean up the aftermath. The bruise that would have taken 7 days to clear started disappearing at a visible rate. Si Yue showed a trace of pain in her coma. Yun Jioga immediately stopped. After careful observation, she did not find anything wrong. Ever since she had obtained the wood spirit from the human-faced Peach King, the Thunderfire Needle's life force had become even denser, and its healing effects had become even better. It was impossible for it to hurt Si Yue. However, Si Yue's expression became more and more pained, and tears began to flow from the corners of her eyes. Although Yun Jioga did not understand, his hands did not stop moving. Soon, the blood clot disappeared and the seal was lifted. All that was left was to wait for Si Yue to wake up. Have you finished setting up the traps? Yun Jioga asked as he put away the needles. If he could capture the person who had secretly saved Si Yue, he might be able to gain something. Yun Jioga was very interested in anything that could help her deal with the 3 great elders. I guarantee that he won't be able to return. Zi Shang was determined to win. Night gradually fell. The 2 maids prepared the meal and invited Yun Jioga over to eat. The food was mediocre. She could tell that Jin Yanwei really didn't care much about this place. Other than sending her here at the beginning, he didn't come to visit her again, nor did he send anyone to ask for a message. However, Yun Jioga had already learned from Zi Shang that Enemy Peak was currently facing a great enemy, so she was tactful enough not to cause any trouble for Jin Yanwei. She ate dinner and went to sleep early. It was dark outside, and after midnight, it was even quieter. In a remote bamboo forest behind the mountain, a black shadow quickly ran towards Si Yue's small courtyard. The black shadow was tall and thin, dressed in a nocturnal robe. His face was covered by a black hood, and not even his eyes could be seen. He vigilantly observed his surroundings before tiptoeing into the small courtyard. The black shadow first went to the 2 maids' room and blew a cloud of sleeping smoke into it. When he heard that the breathing inside had deepened, he went to Yun Jioga's room and blew a cloud of sleeping smoke as well. Yun Jioga lay on the bed and calmly watched the colorless and odorless smoke slowly spread. She first swallowed an antidote pill, then pretended to be asleep. The black shadow vigilantly scanned Yun Jioga with his divine sense a few times. After confirming that it had been affected, he walked towards Si Yue's room. Si Yue had just washed her body in the evening and changed into a pale pink dress. Lying on the bed, she looked serene and beautiful. The black shadow stood by the bed and stared at her for a moment, then reached out to touch her head and face. There was still a needle hole left by Yun Jioga's acupuncture at noon. He carefully examined Si Yue and found that there was nothing wrong with her. He then took out a gray disc and placed it at the head of the bed. The disc was carved out of spirit wood, and it was densely carved with runes. There were even a few spirit jades placed on it. After it was activated, it spewed out a thick cloud of smoke that enveloped the entire room. The room immediately became incomparably dark, and there was a faint flow of gray yin qi. It turned out to be an offensive and defensive formation. After the black shadow got on the bed, he skillfully untied Si Yue's clothes. However, just as he undid her belt, the gray yin qi of the formation fluctuated violently. The black shadow immediately jumped up and quickly jumped towards the window at the back. There was a bamboo forest there, and he had set up a psychedelic defensive formation so that he could escape once he entered it. However, as soon as he jumped out of the window, he felt a sharp pain in his feet, followed by a strong numbness that spread throughout his body. At the same time, a thick green vine emerged from the ground and tied him up like a dumpling. He was shocked, and tried to use all the spiritual power in his body to break free, but a stone flew out of nowhere and hit his Dasui acupoint. His waist went numb, and his spiritual power dissipated. He sat on the ground, paralyzed. In the next second, a demonic youth with red eyes and purple lips walked out of Coyo's room, still holding the disc that he had set up. It was Yun Jioga, who was pretending to be asleep. "Let me see who you really are." Yun Jioga sneered. He stepped forward and pulled off the Black Shadow's mask. "Why are you here?" Yun Jioga was shocked when she saw the Black Shadow's true appearance. She would never have guessed that the man who came to molest Siyue in the middle of the night was little Fatty's uncle, Jin Chuan. Jin Chuan frowned and stared at Yun Jioga with a fierce look. "Senior Jin Chuan, I remember that you are the sect master steward. Why are you looking for Senior Sister Yue at Enemy Peak so late at night?" Yun Jioga was not afraid of him at all. The last time Jin Chuan came looking for her, he had been acting all high and mighty. She was very unhappy, and today was the perfect time for revenge. "This has nothing to do with you. I advise you to mind your own business and worry more about yourself." Jin Chuan's voice was gloomy and threatening. He looked like he was telling her to mind her own business if she could not protect herself. Chapter 343. I don't know if Senior Jin Chuan has heard of the proverb, "When there are too many lice, one will not be afraid of an itch." Yun Jioga smiled slightly. "Sister is not even afraid of Elder Mo Hua and Elder Baigu. Why would she be afraid of a small steward like you?" Jin Chuan saw through Yun Jioga's rascality. After a moment of silence, he said with a straight face, "I'm here to save Siyue. If your medical skills are really that good, you should have already seen that the divine sense seal on her has loosened a lot." "That's right, I did see that the seal on Senior Sister Yue has loosened a lot. Apart from that, I also saw that the method you used to remove the seal was not very good. It felt like you were taking advantage of her." Yun Jioga was more reserved and did not mention that Jin Chuan was with the female corpse. "That's right, I did use the method of dual cultivation to treat her injuries. But even if she wakes up and finds out about this, she will definitely not blame me." Jin Chuan was very calm. Yun Jioga was actually speechless. With Cuyu's style, this kind of dual cultivation to treat illnesses was really nothing to her. "All right, let me go. If Jin Yanwei finds out, we won't be able to explain ourselves," Jin Chuan said impatiently. "What's there to explain? Senior Jin Chuan sacrificed himself to save someone. Such a good thing should be known by senior brother Jin. He might even be grateful to you." Yun Jioga had not found out Jin Chuan's purpose in saving Siyue. How could he let him go so easily? "What do you want?" Jin Chuan's face darkened. Even though he was tied up and sitting on the ground, his aura was still solemn and dignified. He did not look like a rapist at all. "You just need to tell me why you sacrificed yourself to save Senior Sister Yue." "Oh, that's right, there's also this array disc. I remember that the Een Corpse sect is only good at Een spirit talismans and not array formations." Yun Jioga waved the high-grade array disc in his hand. Although she did not know how to draw talisman patterns, she had studied them after following Zishang for so long. The black fog emitted by the array disc seemed to be driven by Een Qi, but it was actually carved with the unique talisman patterns of the Purple Cloud sect. It was exactly the same as the talisman patterns that Nan Gongli had given her. When Jin Chuan heard Yun Jioga's question, a fierce killing intent flashed in his eyes, but it quickly disappeared. "Since you insist on asking, then I'm not afraid to tell you. I like to fool around with women like this. I can dual cultivate and feel good at the same time. Saving her was just to prevent others from finding out so that I can use it as an excuse to shirk responsibility. As for that array board, I bought it when I went to Amethyst Mountain for work." Jin Chuan suddenly grinned. His originally serious and rigid face suddenly became incomparably evil and charming. He looked like an out-and-out pervert. If it was someone else, they would probably believe it. After all, an evil sect like the Een Corpse sect had many perverts, so it was normal for them to have this kind of special hobby. However, Yun Jioga instinctively felt that Jin Chuan was lying. Things were definitely not that simple. Just as she was about to continue asking, Zi Shang transmitted his voice. Something happened at enemy peak. Jin Yanwei is heading this way. Yun Jioga decisively gave up on asking. For Jin Lin's sake, I'll let you go this time. Next time, if you want to fool around, you'd better choose the right person to avoid losing yourself. Yun Jioga pinched her fingers and retracted the vines on Jin Chuan's body. Then, she threw the paralysis powder antidote to him. Jin Chuan picked up the antidote and sniffed it. After confirming that it was not poisonous, he swallowed it. Once he regained his mobility, he immediately disappeared into the bamboo forest. Yun Jioga hurriedly returned to the courtyard. Not long later, she saw Jin Yanwei rushing over with a serious expression. Behind him were Manager Chen and the elite disciples of Enemy Peak. Yun Jioga pretended to be sleepy as she walked out. She asked in surprise, "Senior Jin, it's so late. Why did you come? Do you have a mystic white bone monkey with you?" Jin Yanwei did not even bother with small talk and asked directly. "That's right." Yun Jioga nodded. From the looks of it, Elder Whitebone had come looking for him. "Take it out for me to see." Jin Yanwei extended his hand and said, "I didn't bring it with me." Yun Jioga would have to be stupid to take it out. Jin Yanwei frowned and said angrily, "Do you know you've gotten into big trouble?" He had originally thought that Yun Jioga had only offended Elder Mo Hua. He had not expected her to have a mystic Whitebone monkey with her. Now that Elder Whitebone and Elder Mo Hua had come together, one wanted the monkey and the other wanted him, he really could not take it anymore. The mystic Whitebone monkey is a spiritual being. If it wants to leave, I can't stop it. Yun Jioga said innocently. "Why are you still talking nonsense with me at a time like this? Do you think Elder Mo Hua will believe your nonsense? Be careful that they don't use the soul-searching technique on you if they are forced into a corner. In the past, Su Junqing was pampered, but now he is still in a miserable state. Do you want the same?" Jin Yanwei said threateningly. "Even if I use the soul-searching technique, it's useless. I don't have it." Yun Jioga was not afraid. She had Zi Shang backing her up. It was impossible for those two old things to touch her. Jin Yanwei pointed at Yun Jioga and said hatefully, "All right, I can't protect you anymore. Go talk to Elder Mo Hua and Elder Whitebone yourself." He did not believe that Yun Jioga was not afraid. "It's fine if I go. However, if people talk about Enemy Peak in the future, I'm afraid no one will dare to come up again." Yun Jioga smiled. It would have been fine if Jin Yanwei had rejected her when she first came up. Now that he had taken her in, he had to hand her over under the pressure of Elder Whitebones and Elder Blackflower. Wasn't this telling others that Enemy Peak was shorter than the other peaks? It would definitely be very embarrassing if word of this got out. "You dare to threaten me?" Although Jin Yanwei had a baby face, he was naturally not a kind person to be able to get to this position on Enemy Peak. At this moment, he glared and his killing intent surged. "Senior brother Jin, you're worrying too much. I didn't mean that. Didn't you say that you would bring me to see Elder Whitebones and Elder Blackflower? Then let's go." Yun Jioga's expression confused Jin Yanwei. Could it be that he was confident that he would not be eaten alive by Elder Whitebone and Elder Mo Hua? However, with his cultivation of Qi Refinement Stage 5, what bargaining chips could he have? Jin Yanwei was a little bewildered, but he had already spoken and could not go back on his words. For a moment, he was in a difficult position. At this moment, the door of the small courtyard behind him creaked and a delicate and pleasant voice sounded. "Senior Jin, you must not hand him over. Junior sister Yue, you're awake?" Jin Yanwei looked at Si Yue, who was wearing a lotus dress and standing gracefully at the door in shock. He really did not dare to believe his eyes. "It's all thanks to this junior brother's miraculous skills that I was able to wake up." Si Yue nodded at Yun Jioga and then said to Jin Yanwei sternly, "Senior brother, this junior brother is a talent. We must not let Whitebone Peak and Ink Flower Peak benefit." Chapter 344. Junior Sister Yue, your wounds have just healed. Go back and rest. You don't have to worry about this. Jin Yanwei said impatiently. She had been lying on the bed for so long and had yet to figure out the situation. Senior brother Jean, although I don't know why Elder Mo Hua and Elder Baigu are so bent on targeting junior brother Yunjiao, I know that whatever they are fighting over must be something good. Cuyu's voice was gentle and unhurried, but her words struck a chord with Jin Yanwei. I understand what you're saying, but the two elders have already said that if we don't hand over the person, they'll personally search for us. Without Master here, we won't be able to hold them down. Jin Yanwei was worried as he spoke of this. Senior brother, you really like to joke. Junior brother Yunjiao isn't at enemy peak. He has hands and feet, so where are we going to find him? Cue said with a smile. Jin Yanwei's eyes lit up, but he quickly shook his head and said, it's impossible for junior brother Yunjiao to leave Corpse Sect. There's no need to go through so much trouble. Just find a place to hide him on enemy peak. Cue said. Our enemy peak is only so big. The two elders will know everything with their divine sense, unless. Jin Yanwei said and suddenly thought of a place that the two elders wouldn't find. Senior brother, are you talking about the forbidden area at the back door? Cue immediately saw through Jin Yanwei's thoughts. That was the forbidden area that Cho Sen had set up. It was filled with traps and restrictions. Other than Jin Yanwei, no one could enter or leave. Yun Jioga had been silently eavesdropping. When he heard the forbidden area, his eyes lit up. This meant that there were many fortuitous encounters. Yes, that is the most suitable place, but I'm afraid that Master will find out. Jin Yanwei was still afraid that his master would be angry. Senior brother's worries are reasonable. Cue thought for a moment and said, how about this? We seal junior brother Yunjiao and put a restriction on him. Then, we put him in the outermost area of the forbidden area. As long as he doesn't get close to the center, Elder Chosen won't say anything. However, junior brother Yunjiao will have to suffer. Cue looked at Yunjioga apologetically. Senior sister Yu, you're too courteous. As long as I can keep my little life, it's already good enough. There's no need to feel aggrieved, Yunjioga said righteously. But Jin Yanwei was still hesitant. At this moment, the alarm on enemy peak suddenly rang loudly, and the wind and clouds surged. Elder Mo Hua's sharp voice sounded, Brat Jin, if you don't hand over Yunjiao to me, I'll tear your enemy peak apart. Alright, let's go to the forbidden area then. Time was of the essence, so he didn't have much time to think about it. Jin Yanwei straightforwardly placed a restriction on Yunjioga, and used a long whip magical artifact to seal off one's aura to tie her up tightly. After confirming that there were no mistakes, he personally carried Yunjioga towards the back of the mountain. He could not help but mutter along the way, Junior brother Yunjiao, that's my master's forbidden area. There are restrictions everywhere. Once you're inside, just stay put. I'll come get you after I send the two elders away. Senior brother, what if they don't leave? Yunjioga asked. You don't have to worry about that. My master will be back by tomorrow at the latest. When that time comes, they'll have to leave even if they don't want to. Jin Yanwei was very confident in his master's strength. All right then. When that time comes, senior brother must put in a good word for me in front of Elder Cho Sen. Yunjioga said sincerely. Don't worry. As long as you hand over the mystic skeleton monkey, my master will reward you even without my good words. Jin Yanwei secretly said to himself. The forbidden area at the back of the mountain was not wide. After walking along a winding path, he saw a forest of pagoda trees, which was the ghoul corpse killing formation that Elder Cho Sen had meticulously set up. It was filled with ghouls, all of which were good seedlings that Elder Cho Sen had gathered from all over the place. He wanted to use the method of raising goo to kill each other, so that he could cultivate a ghoul king. Although the highest level currently was only a ghost general, it was still enough to crush Jin Yanwei to pieces. Jin Yanwei slowed down and took out a red token the size of a palm from his storage pouch. It was neither made of metal nor wood, and there was a layer of red mist floating above it. He could vaguely see countless ferocious ghosts. This was the pass that his master had given him, so that he could feed these ghouls. Jin Yanwei raised the red token high above his head. A faint red light shone down from the token, secretly wrapping him within it. He slowly walked into the pagoda trees, and a thick corpse aura assaulted his senses. Countless ghouls stood under the trees and stared at him, revealing an instinctive desire for flesh and blood. Although it was not Jin Yanwei's first time here, he still felt his scalp go numb. He randomly found a large pagoda tree, threw the bundled-up Yunjioga over it, and ran away without looking back. Yunjioga leaned against the tree trunk, looking at the pale and ferocious ghouls around her gloomily. Although Jin Yanwei had already given her enough spirit-sealing talismans, it still could not stop the fragrance of her tender flesh. Not long after she put her down, the ghouls began to stir and staggered towards her. This Jin Yanwei must have done this on purpose, so that she could release the profound Yin skeleton monkey to save her life. Although Yunjioga had already seen through their scheme, she had no choice but to comply. Who told him to disappear as soon as he entered the Great Corpse Ghost Formation? Little monkey, come out. Yunjioga carefully chanted the summoning incantation, and the little skeleton monkey flew out from her storage bag. After quickly assembling itself, it spat out a faint yin qi that enveloped her, concealing her human scent. Even so, the ghouls still circled around Yunjioga, as if they were watching a bunch of monkeys. In the blink of an eye, there were 3 layers inside and 3 layers outside. The thick corpse stench almost suffocated Yunjioga to death. Little monkey, spit out some air. Yunjioga could also see that the little skeleton monkey was slacking off. Kacha kacha. The little skeleton monkey shook its head at Yunjioga in dissatisfaction. The soul fire in its eye sockets was extremely small. It had been locked up for a long time, so naturally it did not want to work. Little monkey, be good. After Big Sister is done with this, I'll make you a big bucket of inchi water to drink, okay? Yunjioga hurriedly coaxed. Ever since entering the small hidden realm, the profound Yin monkey source of Yin Qi had been cut off. It was no wonder that it was angry. The skeleton monkey raised a finger, indicating that it wanted to add another bucket. 1 bucket is too much. 2 scoops at most. Yunjioga flatly refused. It was not easy to get a bucket of inchi water for this guy, so she could not let it get used to its bad habit. The little skeleton monkey's soul fire flickered. Then, it seriously stretched out its palm, indicating that it wanted 5 scoops. Fine, 5 scoops it is. Yunjioga gave in. These ghouls were really too smelly. The little skeleton monkey's lower jaw moved in satisfaction, revealing a smile. Then, it prepared to pour more inchi into it. Suddenly, a thumping sound came from the ground in the distance. The surrounding ghouls screamed in fear, then scattered in all directions as if they had seen a ghost. Chapter 345. Yunjioga suddenly clenched her fists and saw a tall, burly, green-eyed ghoul dressed in bronze armor rushing towards her. The ghoul raised a cyan moon saber that was shrouded in black qi. The tip of the saber slashed down viciously at Yunjioga's location. The wind from the saber immediately cut a large crack in the ground. Then, billowing smoke mixed with the sound of an explosion assaulted Yunjioga. Little monkey, run. Yunjioga wanted the white bone monkey to escape with her. She didn't expect the idiot to stand up and leave, leaving Yunjioga on the spot. Boom. At the crucial moment, a purple mist shot out from the imprint on Yunjioga's wrist, wrapping her up tightly. The crack stopped in front of Yunjioga. The corpse ghost roared in anger when its attack missed. It raised its saber and the black energy became stronger as it slashed towards Yunjioga again. But this time, before the saber landed, it was broken by a purplish-black spear. The spear's momentum did not decrease as it sent the corpse ghost flying into the sky. Where did you run off to? Yunjioga asked as she kept the disloyal white bone monkey into her storage bag. Where did you run off to? Yunjioga asked as she kept the disloyal white bone monkey into her storage bag. Where did you run off to just now? Yunjioga asked as she kept the disloyal white bone monkey into her storage bag. Yunjioga's eyes lit up, but when she thought of Elder Cho Sen, she hesitated. Will we be discovered if we barge in like this? With me here, I guarantee he won't find out. Even though the restrictions were not bad, it was not enough in Zishang's eyes. Alright, Then let's go in and take a look. Yun Jioga immediately became excited. Yun Jioga and Zi Shang followed the mysterious white bone monkey's lead and easily passed through the corpse ghost array. After avoiding many traps, they arrived in front of a dark cave. This cave doesn't look like much. Yun Jioga looked around the empty cave and did not find anything out of the ordinary. Condense the yin energy in your forehead and look carefully. See if there's anything on the ground and walls. Zi Shang placed his palm behind Yun Jioga, lending her some strength. Yun Jioga opened his spiritual eye and took a closer look. Indeed, he discovered that the cave walls and the ground were filled with black yin spirit runes. They were like a spider web that was tightly interwoven, waiting for its prey to take the bait. This is the Netherworld 4 Slaughter formation. Even though it hasn't been set up completely, its might isn't weak. If one were to enter rashly, then not only would one's body be instantly destroyed by the formation, one's soul would be captured as well. It's extremely vicious. Zi Shang explained. How do we get in? At first, Yun Jioga didn't think so. Now, he realized that the cave was giving off a huge pressure. What are you afraid of when I'm here? Zi Shang laughed with ridicule, and then he summoned the dark yin skeleton monkey over. The mystic yin white bone monkey was very respectful toward Zi Shang and obediently walked over. Zi Shang unceremoniously dismantled the mystic yin white bone and reassembled it into the shape of an umbrella. The monkey head happened to be facing Yun Jioga. Why did you do this to it? Yun Jioga looked at the skeleton monkey's pitiful soul fire, his heart filled with sympathy. I've thought about it. This Netherworld 4 kill formation requires an extreme yin chi to defend against it, Zi Shang said. Then will the little monkey be in danger? If there was danger, then forget it. Compared to looking for some unknown watermelon, it was more important to protect this sesame seed in his hand. No, it has eaten too much yin chi during this period of time. It's just right to use this formation to temper it. Zi Shang had a look of, I'm doing it for its own good. The skeleton monkey's soul fire jumped wildly, as if it was shouting no, 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 no. Good child, only by going through the hardships can you rise to the top. Do your best. Yun Jioga patted its big head, and then stood under the umbrella with Zi Shang. However, this umbrella was still a little small, and couldn't completely cover the two of them. Come up. Zi Shang squatted down, looking like he was going to let Yun Jioga carry him away. Yun Jioga didn't hesitate to get on his back. The two of them held the skeleton umbrella and stepped into the cave. The scene in front of them instantly changed drastically. The empty cave turned into boundless darkness. The cries of a baby and the laughter of a child drifted in from an unknown place, disappearing in the blink of an eye. But then, a shrill female voice rang out. It was faint and resentful, as if crying and complaining. It made one's scalp go numb. Yun Jioga was a veteran, so she naturally wouldn't be scared by these little tricks. Just as she was about to urge Zi Shang to continue forward, she realized that the skeleton umbrella in her hand suddenly sank, and she almost dropped it. That's the Netherworld blocking the way. Zi Shang carried Yun Jioga with one hand, and took the skeleton umbrella from her hand with the other. Yun Jioga's heart immediately lightened. She was wondering why it felt like there was something sitting on the umbrella. Zi Shang carried Yun Jioga forward in the darkness. Those strange sounds kept disturbing their eardrums. Towards the end, it turned into familiar human voices. Yun Jioga even heard the voices of Mother Qing, Yiyu, and Luo Tian. It made her want to greet them, but she held back in the end. Although Zi Shang was walking very steadily, Yun Jioga could still feel the skeleton umbrella getting heavier and heavier. The sound of bones being squeezed was so unpleasant that it made her teeth ache. Yun Jioga was afraid that the skeleton monkey wouldn't be able to hold on, but she saw that the thin white bones kept releasing wisps of yin chi. Under the guidance of Zi Shang's spiritual power, the yin chi kept forming a cycle, and the bones became more and more solid. In the end, the skeleton umbrella shrunk to half its original size, but the yin chi it emitted doubled. Every thin bone shone with a metallic glow. It seemed like it had successfully advanced. Before Yun Jioga could be happy, a cliff suddenly appeared in front of her. The bottom of the cliff was so deep that she couldn't see it, and the mountain wind made her face hurt. Next, before Yunjioga could finish her question, Zishang had already carried her and jumped down the cliff. Yunjioga thought that she would hear the sound of the wind, but there was nothing. As soon as she jumped down, a stone room appeared in front of her eyes. So the cliff was just an illusion. Zishang put the skeleton monkey away and placed his palm on the stone room. With the invasion of the purple mist, the stone room opened wide, and waves of light came from treasures. This was a treasure room. This treasure room was very spacious. There weren't many things, but they were arranged very neatly. On the left stood a row of Een corpses that looked like monkeys. There were over 100 of them, and they were covered in Een spirit runes, looking fierce and scary. In the middle was a light screen with over 10 small balls of light. Inside were high-level totem weapons. The lowest was a 4th-grade totem weapon. They were much higher level than Yunjioga's bone spike and thunder snake whip. She couldn't help but be envious, but she didn't dare have any ideas. On the right was a row of medicine cabinets carved from flower branches and spirit wood. Bottles of pills were neatly arranged on top of the cabinets. They were all top-notch pills that were extremely useful for cultivation. There was even a bottle of foundation-building pills. Below the cabinets was a huge jade medicine cabinet with countless beautiful blood lotus flowers stacked on top of each other. This elder Chosen is quite rich. Yunjioga was very moved. A golden core ancestor was truly rich. The real good things aren't here. Zishang gave a faint smile and pointed at the bottom of the medicine cabinet. Chapter 346. You mean there's a secret room below? Yunjioga was excited. Being able to be hidden so tightly by Chosen, the treasures in this secret room must not be ordinary. Stand back first. Zishang had Yunjioga back to the door. Then he began to draw some runes on the bottom of the medicine cabinet. It was the floating talisman. When the last rune was finished, the small array flashed with a faint blue light. Then the incomparably heavy medicine cabinet slowly rose up, revealing the black-red floor below. This black-red floor was covered in blood-red Een spirit runes. It was like blood-red eyes staring at the intruder, releasing a cold and gloomy aura. Zishang had done a lot of research on nether spirit formations. Once he found the entry point, he poured an extremely pure purple chi into it. The blood-red eyes seemed like they were hypnotized as they slowly closed their eyes. Following that, the floor split open on both sides, and a blood-red coffin emerged from the ground. The Een spirit runes carved on the coffin looked like blood-red chains, and it emitted a nauseating stench. Yunjioga quickly swallowed 2 poison-repelling pills, feeling a bit better. He asked Zishang, "This coffin doesn't seem right." The Een spirit runes on it are soul-nourishing talismans. It uses the spiritual energy of the blood to nourish the soul. Zishang said this while walking around the coffin a few times, carefully studying the method to open it. "Do you think the thing inside is Chosen's Een corpse?" Yunjioga asked with great interest. It said that no one in the Een corpse sect had ever seen Chosen's Een corpse. "We'll know once we open it." Zishang quickly found a way to open it. After pouring in his unique purple demonic energy, the lid of the coffin opened to the side. A very nice fragrance came from the coffin. It was the smell of the blood lotus. Yunjioga couldn't help looking into the coffin. He was instantly shocked. What was lying inside was not a Een corpse, but rather a beautiful girl wearing sky blue robes. Her skin was white, her eyebrows were like a painting, her nose was straight and delicate, her red lips were slightly curled up, as if she was smiling, making people feel happy. Her chin was small and exquisite. It was very perfect. But the most important thing was that this young girl was actually at the late golden core stage. With Chosen's temper, he should have immediately refined this kind of good material into a Een corpse. Why would he put it here? Yunjioga couldn't help but take a closer look at the girl. He found that Sioyue's chin was somewhat similar to this girl's. Could this be the reason why Chosen doted on Sioyue? Then what was the relationship between this girl and Chosen? They couldn't be lovers, right? This woman's soul has been taken away. Zishang raised his eyebrows. Cultivators in the later stage of the gold core realm all had the ability to self-destruct their gold core. When they encountered a situation where they could not be saved, they would use this big move. Therefore, it was very difficult to take away their souls, unless it was an old monster in the nascent soul realm. Could he have been taken away by Chosun? Yun Jioga instantly imagined a scene of a scumbag with a knife. Judging from Elder Mo Hua's ruthlessness, there was a high possibility of that happening. Zi Shang shook his head. I don't think so. Look at the water in the coffin. It's formed by the blood lotus. There's no need for him to capture a person's soul and spend so much effort to preserve the corpse. Zi Shang shook his head. Only then did Yun Jioga realize that the amber liquid in the coffin was formed by the blood lotus. The bloodthirsty sect helped Chosun grow flowers in the Thunder Nation. Every year, they had to kill countless people for 10 flowers to mature. He didn't expect Chosun to use them as formalin. However, what shocked Yun Jioga the most was the small silk-like object in the girl's hand. If she wasn't wrong, it was a treasure map. Yun Jioga couldn't help but reach out to take it. However, Zi Shang stopped him. Don't move. Be careful of her corpse transformation. Corpse transformation? Didn't you say she was an Ain corpse? Yun Jioga stopped and asked. Look carefully at what's in the water. Zi Shang opened Yun Jioga's spirit eye. Yun Jioga looked carefully and realized that there were many transparent bugs in the water. They were densely packed and in the shape of chains. They were extremely similar to the Ain spirit runes on the outside of the coffin. Those are all high-level corpse bugs. If you encounter this woman, those corpse bugs will immediately cover her body and use her gold core late-stage cultivation to fight you to the end. Zi Shang said. Then forget it. Yun Jioga was only here for sightseeing. He didn't want to cause such a big trouble. Although I can't take it away, I can still take a look. Zi Shang's fingers moved slightly. The silk seemed to have a life of its own as it flew up and appeared in front of Yun Jioga. This treasure map was extremely big. It was the size of 3 palms. Yun Jioga took out the treasure map that he found on the Crown Prince and the Yi sisters. It really did match. Moreover, more than half of it was restored. Only a quarter of it was missing. I want it. Yun Jioga was excited. As long as he could get this treasure map, he wasn't afraid of any commotion. Now is not the time. Zi Shang shook his head. His fingers moved again and the treasure map returned to the girl's hand. Alright. Although Yun Jioga felt a little regretful, he wasn't very disappointed. Since he already knew that the item was here, he could come back to take it when he had the chance. Let's go. After Zi Shang restored everything to its original state, he brought Yun Jioga out of the treasure room and returned to the ghoul corpse array. Elder Mo Hua's incomparably furious voice echoed in the sky. Yun Jioga, you brat, how dare you trick me? How dare you? Don't think that you'll be safe just because you're hiding in enemy peak. Do you believe that I won't skin you alive after I get my hands on you? Her tone sounded like Yun Jioga was cheating her of her money and sex. Yun Jioga felt that she was being wronged. She had never agreed to be Elder Mo Hua's male pet. How was this cheating? Yun Jioga, don't be afraid. Come out in peace. I'll protect you. Elder Whitebone's friendly voice sounded behind Elder Mo Hua. You just have to give me the abstruse Ain white skeleton monkey. Anyway, that treasure won't be of much use in your hands. Why don't you exchange it with me for a suitable cultivation method or magic item? Or if you want a foundation establishment pill, that's fine too. I have 3 with me. I'll give them all to you. Whitebone's old man, are you trying to snatch people from me? Elder Mo Hua flew into a rage out of humiliation. Mo Hua, don't be angry. I'll help you find a group of better disciples later and send them to your Mo Hua palace as an apology. Elder Whitebones looked like he was in the mood to negotiate. Do you think I care? Old Elder Mo was very dissatisfied. We're all old friends. All the disciples of the Ain Corpse sect are listening. Give me some face. Elder Whitebones played the emotional card. The two of them echoed each other. One white face and the other black face, they spoke in full swing. It was as if the two of them had really reconciled and were going to arrange a good place for Yun Jioga. Chapter 347. If it was any other disciple, they would have been tempted to surrender. After all, these promises were made in front of the entire Een Corpse sect. No matter how thick Elder Mo Hua and Elder Baigu's skin was, they couldn't go back on their words. But the truth was that these words were said by the two of them to this small forbidden area using their divine sense. Other than Yun Jioge and Zi Shang, no one else heard these promises. But as long as Yun Jioge agreed, Elder Mo Hua and Elder Baigu could immediately lock onto her divine sense and forcefully form a contract. Yun Jioge naturally wouldn't fall for this. She ignored the two elders' chatter and took out the evolved profound Een white bone monkey to examine it carefully. At this time, the profound Een white bone monkey had already been tempered to the size of a palm. Its small bones were no longer pale white, but instead glowed faintly. It was like jade but not jade, crystal clear. The soul fire in its eye sockets had condensed into a soul stone. It looked like two red gems were embedded in it. The entire white bone was as beautiful as a work of art. In the future, you don't need to open it and put it in a bag. Zi Shang rubbed the white bone monkey's head. It felt good. The white bone monkey heard that it didn't need to be locked in the small black room anymore. Before it could be happy, Zi Shang added, just tie it up and hang it around your waist. Good idea. Yun Jioge immediately took out a red rope and wrapped it around the white bone monkey's neck twice before hanging it around his waist. The light white bone monkey didn't have any weight and hanging it around his waist didn't affect him at all. Gotcha. The white bone monkey wanted to protest angrily, but it failed under Zi Shang's gaze. It could only hang its head in despair, looking like a hanged ghost. Just as Yun Jioge and Zi Shang were excitedly torturing the pitiful white bone monkey, the Great Hall of Enemy Peak was already burning with the flames of war. Little brat Jean, I think you want to do this the hard way. Elder Mo Hua and Elder Baigu spoke for a long time but couldn't get a response from Yun Jioge. They couldn't help but flare up at Jin Yanwei. Elders, junior brother Yun Jio really isn't at Enemy Peak. Don't make things difficult for me. Jin Yanwei had a bitter expression and acted very well. Stinking brat. You still dare to put on an act in front of me? Do you believe that I will use the soul-searching technique on you? Elder Mo Hua's beautiful eyes were filled with murderous intent. She raised her hand and condensed a large hand made of Een energy to grab Jin Yanwei's head. Jin Yanwei subconsciously took out his dark flame bone spur and dispersed Elder Mo Hua's Een chi hand. Not good. Jin Yanwei immediately realized that he had made a mistake. As expected, Elder Mo Hua immediately narrowed his eyes and said eerily, "Good boy, you actually dare to go against your superiors and attack an elder. Today, I will help your master teach you a good lesson." With that, a black peony flower flew out from her storage pouch and flew towards Jin Yanwei. Although Jin Yanwei was at the mid-stage of foundation establishment, he was still nothing in front of Elder Mo Hua. The black dark flame bone spike was devoured by the Mo Hua, and he was rooted to the spot. He could only watch as the Mo Hua opened its mouth and attacked him. Right at this moment, an extremely cold gust of wind blew outside the hall. In the next moment, Jin Yanwei was pulled away by a small figure. Replacing him were three tall and mighty monster monkey Een corpses with fierce expressions. "Master!" Jin Yanwei excitedly looked at the small figure in front of him and almost cried. "Mo Hua, White Bones, you took advantage of my absence to bully my disciple. Do you think I'm dead?" Although Chosun still looked like a 5-year-old child, his small body released a terrifying aura. 24 bat-shaped bone spurs floated behind him, and the 6 monster monkey Een corpses surrounded Elder White Bones and Elder Mo Hua, looking like they wanted to catch them all in one fell swoop. I was just joking with your disciple, there's no need to be so serious." Elder Mo Hua immediately put away her Mo Hua flower and said with a charming smile, "Speaking of which, it's your disciple's fault. She actually protected my defected male pet, she really doesn't put me in her eyes. Stop saying useless words. Since you dare to be so presumptuous in my territory, you'll have to pay the price in blood." Cho Sen had a fierce expression, and the monster monkey Een corpses let out roars, revealing their mouths full of sharp white teeth. "I already said it was a joke. If you don't believe me, you can ask White Bones. Actually, we came here to discuss the matter of the small secret realm with you." Elder Mo Hua looked at Elder White Bones. Before coming here, they had already agreed to form an alliance. If you dare retreat, this old lady won't forgive you. Elder White Bones had been observing Cho Sen silently. When he heard Elder Mo Hua's call for help, he grinned and said to Cho Sen, "I heard that you went to the ruins. You must have gained a lot, right? You can exchange these demon corpses." "It has nothing to do with you," Cho Sen coldly replied. Elder Mo Hua found some clues. Looking carefully, she found that these monster monkey-eaten corpses were all injured and the 24 bat bone spurs were very dim. It was clear that they had gone through a large battle. The bone spurs and eaten corpses were already this rotten, so the person must not be any better. Elder Mo Hua was instantly relieved. She charmingly smiled at Cho Sen and said, "Since you're injured, don't try to show off. Even if I'm injured, I can still kill you too." Cho Sen was not afraid at all. Rather, his killing intent increased by a level. This was the prelude to the counterattack of an injured beast. "Cho Sen, we're all from the same sect. Wouldn't it be a joke to fight over a little disciple?" Elder White Bones was very afraid of Cho Sen, so she immediately changed her tone. That's right, he's just a boy toy. If your disciple likes him, then he can have him. There's no need to harm our relationship." Elder Mo Hua followed up. Fuck. Jin Yanwei really wanted to curse. Not to mention that he couldn't mess around with his cultivation technique. Even if he wanted to mess around, he would find a fragrant woman. Who would like Yunjio's corpse poison face? Cho Sen did not say anything, but his aura eased up a bit. At least he didn't look like he was going to fight to the death. The White Bone Elder saw that there was hope, so he said, "You know how important the profound White Bone Monkey is to me. We have been in the same sect for so long, so just do me a favor. We can use something to exchange for it." Using something to exchange for it was already a sign of submission. Cho Sen's face was expressionless. After a while he asked, "What do you want to use to exchange?" "I'll use a branch of the black bone leopard pattern wood to exchange for that brat Yunjio," Elder Mo Yun said first. Although this chip wasn't very expensive, it was enough to exchange for a disciple at the 3rd Chi refining stage. "I'll use a high-grade 3rd grade dark spirit bone to exchange for the profound White Bone Monkey," Elder White Bones said. Although this spirit bone wasn't very high grade, it was still very hard to obtain. Although Cho Sen couldn't use it, it was very good to polish it and give it to a disciple. For example, when Jin Yanwei heard about the dark spirit bone, his eyes couldn't help but light up. If Cho Sen refused, it would definitely leave a knot in Jin Yanwei's heart. Even if he didn't dare to complain to his master, he would still vent his anger on Yunjiogu. "Fine, you guys go catch him yourselves." Cho Sen finally gave in. This time, he came across an ancient ruin. Although he got a lot of good things, he was seriously injured in the fight and needed to recuperate. He wasn't in the mood to participate in these trivial matters, so he could only let these two guys benefit. Unexpectedly, the ghoul corpse formation did not operate according to his will. Instead, a large amount of black and red corpse chi gushed out from the corner, causing the ghouls to become even more violent. Corpse King Chi. Cho Sen was overjoyed when he saw the black and red corpse chi. This kind of situation could only appear when there was a corpse king. Could it be that there was a corpse king here when he was not here? However, on second thought, he felt that something was wrong. The most powerful ghoul in this ghoul corpse formation was only at the level of a ghost general. Even if the other ghouls ate immortal pills, they would not be able to evolve so quickly. Many thoughts flashed through Cho Sen's mind, but his hands did not slow down. He pointed at the place where the corpse chi had erupted and the bat bone spikes swarmed over, but he never thought that they would be trapped by the black and red corpse chi. Cho Sen's brows furrowed, and he brought the demon monkey-eaten corpse to personally investigate the situation. "Let's go." Zi Shang saw that Cho Sen had fallen for his trap, so he immediately carried Yunjioga and flew out of enemy peak. Elder Mo Hua and Elder White Bones were floating in the air watching the show. Suddenly, they saw a figure charging out of the locust tree forest as fast as lightning, and they subconsciously blocked it. Elder Mo Hua's ink flower released countless petals. like a goddess scattering flowers, it was extremely spectacular. In reality, it was a group of the most savage bloodthirsty flying insects, covering the sky as they attacked Yunjioge and Zishang. Elder Whitebones took off the string of small skulls from his neck and threw them out, turning them into 5 large skulls. The soul fire in the eyes of the large skulls was dark black, and their bodies were covered in an incomparably dense black mist. They charged forward like a meteor chasing the sun. Their speed was even faster than Elder Mo Hua's goddess scattering flowers. The two of them had used their strongest killing moves from the start, and they were extremely fast. If Zishang continued to fly, he would lose the initiative and fall into a passive state. He carried Yunjioge and decisively turned around. He raised his palm lightly, and without revealing anything, he shot out a large amount of gray yin qi at the large skulls that were flying over. The large skulls opened their mouths, and all the yin qi was sucked into their mouths. The yin corpse sex magic weapons were mainly for devouring, and Elder Whitebones was no exception. These 5 skulls had a huge appetite, and nothing could escape their mouths. It was a pity that they were hit this time. The gray yin qi that they had just swallowed was mixed with countless amounts of cold energy, and it instantly froze them into 5 large ice cubes, and they began to roll around on the spot. Elder Mo Hua's goddess scattering flowers was also blocked by the yin qi that Zishang had created. Living corpse. Elder Mo Hua and Elder Whitebone's eyes were extremely sharp, and in just a few moves, they had clearly seen Zishang's appearance. Gray hair and gray eyes, a stunning appearance, and agile movements. Its body was filled with a thick corpse aura, and it was actually a 1,000-year-old living corpse. Elder Mo Hua and Elder Whitebone's eyes instantly shone with a blazing light, and without a word, they attacked Zishang like wild beasts fighting for food. I say, when the two of you fight for something, can't you show some respect to me, your master? Yunjioge was lying on Zishang's back, extremely dissatisfied. With her current Qi refinement stage 5 cultivation, she naturally could not participate in such a high-level battle. Elder Mo Hua and Elder Whitebones did not dare to kill such a rare living corpse, so Zishang could deal with them with ease. Unfortunately, he could not find a chance to kill his way out. Yunjioge was also extremely anxious on Zishang's back. Sigh, it was still too early to expose herself. If she was given half a year to cultivate, she would definitely be able to advance to the foundation establishment stage. Although she could not participate in the battle of the Golden Core ancestors, at least she could fly on her own, and would not be a burden on Zishang's back. Little Yunjio is really capable. This living corpse is yours, right? Elder Mo Hua finally saw the clues. The person that the living corpse was protecting with all its might was not her backup male pet, Yunjio. Yunjioge did not make a sound, but Elder Mo Hua did not need her to answer, and directly came to a conclusion. As expected of the person I fancy, you really have great fortune. Hurry up and bring this living corpse to me. I will not mistreat you. Mo Hua, have you forgotten that I'm still here? Elder Whitebones said with a faint smile. Whitebones, it's enough for you to have the abstruse white skeleton monkey. Why are you fighting with me over this living corpse? Mo Hua's teasing was filled with determination. She really liked this living corpse. It was so beautiful and so powerful. What was a blood contract? As long as she controlled Yunjio, it was equivalent to controlling this living corpse. Although it would be a little troublesome to use it, she did not mind. Chapter 349. This is such a good corpse and you want to take it for yourself. Your idea is too good. If you want it, then give me 1,000-year-old black bone leopard pattern bamboo. The white bone elder focused on controlling bones, and his yin corpses were also white bones. The corpse in front of him had a blood contract with Yunjio and was not as important to him as the profound yin white bone monkey. But this did not stop him from asking for more benefits. 1,000-year-old black bone leopard pattern bamboo, to think you can say that. Why don't you just go steal it? The black bone leopard patterned wood was hard to grow, and she had only collected 20 of them after planting them for so many years, she could not give it to others. Then 5 it is. The white bone elder tactfully lowered the price. This black bone leopard pattern could help the Yin corpses refine their Yin Qi, so 5 was enough. Elder Mo Hua's face was livid, constantly changing. It was clear that he was not willing to give up the 5 black bone leopard pattern bamboo. Although the two of them did not forget to attack each other during the negotiation, they were still a bit lax. Yun Jioge couldn't help urging Zi Shang to run for his life. Otherwise, when Chosun came out, he would not be able to win against the 3 of them. There's no hurry, Zi Shang replied calmly. If this wasn't urgent, then when would he be urgent? Yun Jioge really wanted to kneel down to Zi Shang. But this fellow was still leisurely fighting with him. It really was infuriating. You better make your decision quickly, otherwise when Chosun comes out, you'll have to pay him more. The white bone elder kindly reminded Elder Mo Hua. Alright, 5 it is. Help me take him down. Elder Mo Hua quickly made his decision. The white bone elder was speaking the truth. Cho Sen was someone who would take advantage of others. If they couldn't take care of him in time, they would lose even more. Good. The white bone elder said this and took out a corpse refining bag from his waist. In the next moment, a 10-meter-tall white bone Yin corpse wearing armor and holding a golden sword appeared in front of Yun Jioge. Elder Mo Hua also took out his Yin corpse. It was actually a baby. His skin was purplish-black, and his face was terrifyingly dry. He was only wearing a red dudu, and what was embroidered on the dudu was not an auspicious pattern, but a picture of 100 ghosts struggling in hell. Yun Jioge had cultivated in the Yin corpse sect for a long time, so he was very familiar with all kinds of Yin corpses. With a glance, he could tell that the infant corpse in front of him was one of the ghost corpses. First, he refined an infant with a Yin spirit root into a mummy, and then stuffed it with 81 high-grade malicious spirits. The ghost corpses refined this way had the ability to teleport and were best at sneak attacks. This infant corpse still couldn't walk, and as soon as it appeared, it crawled in the air. After crawling a few steps forward, he disappeared from where he was. Then, he suddenly appeared in front of Zi Shang and stretched out his little hand toward Zi Shang while babbling. The small palm was also purplish-black in color, but there was a black hole in the center of the palm. Countless ghosts were screaming and pouncing toward them. Zi Shang's reaction was extremely fast. Almost at the instant the infant corpse appeared, he kicked it towards Elder Mo Hua before the spirits could even appear. With a bang, the black cloud of petals scattered. At this time, Elder Whitebone's Yin corpse also attacked with its golden sword. It wasn't fast, but its defense was shocking. Zi Shang's gray spear condensed from death chi couldn't shake it at all, so it could only move around and fight. But even like this, Zi Shang's performance was enough to shock Elder Whitebone and Elder Mo Hua. Elder Mo Hua beat her chest and stamped her feet. This living corpse was already this strong after forming a blood contract with a 5th Chi disciple layer cultivator. Wouldn't she be even stronger? Thinking of this, Elder Mo Hua looked at Yun Jioge with eyes filled with killing intent, as if saying, "You destroyed this old lady's treasure." Yun Jioge was already numb to Elder Mo Hua's unrequited love. She focused all her attention on the direction of Enemy Peak, praying that Chosun wouldn't appear so soon. It would be best if he could immediately go into closed-door cultivation to heal his injuries. It was a pity that her wish quickly fell through. There was a flapping sound coming from the top of Enemy Peak. 20 black bat bone spikes flew over, with a 5-year-old child standing on the bone spike at the front. It was Elder Cho Sr. This guy really came fast. Elder Mo Hua was very annoyed. "There's no other way, you better give him a share," Elder Whitebone said gloatingly. He was already feeling a little regretful when he saw how powerful this living corpse was. Now that he saw Chosun coming over, he really hoped that he would let Mo Hua bleed so that she wouldn't be twice as powerful after obtaining this living corpse. "Chosun, this living corpse has already formed a blood contract with my boy pet. Don't fight for it," Elder Mo Hua said with a charming smile, not feeling that it was strange to be flirting with Chosun, who looked like a 5-year-old child. "What's in it?" Chosun said expressionlessly. He dragged his tired and injured body over not to watch Elder Mo Hua flirt, but to get a share. "What do you want?" Elder Mo Hua said unwillingly. 20 black bone leopard bamboo. Cho Sin demanded an exorbitant price, angering Elder Mo Hua so much that she almost vomited blood. She suppressed the anger in her heart and said, 5, the same as white bone. Alright. Cho Sin also knew when to stop. One hand over the money, one hand over the goods, let's finish this quickly. Elder Mo Hua turned around and glared at Yun Jioga, wanting to skin her alive. Yun Jioga couldn't help swallowing a mouthful of saliva. Although Zishang's performance was very strong, fighting 1 against 3 was too strange. She didn't know what kind of move he would make. Hold on tight. Zishang secretly sent a sound transmission to Yun Jioga before placing his finger on his forehead. The blood tattoos that he had hidden slowly appeared, appearing very conspicuous on his pale white skin. Blood Eye. Elder Mo Hua and Elder Whitebone both cried out in alarm before quickly retreating. Even the heaven-shattering Cho Sin didn't dare come close. This blood eye was something that only Yin corpses with special physiques could cultivate. It had a strong and terrifying curse ability. It was one of the most troublesome skills. Zishang wasn't a Yin corpse, so naturally he didn't have the blood eye ability, but this didn't stop him from overstepping his boundaries. When he was prepared to open the fake blood eye and give the 3 of them a real curse, a bell suddenly rang from the Yin Corpse sect master's peak. That was the sound of the sect master returning. As the bell rang, an extremely pure Yin energy rushed out from the Yin energy cemetery of Yin Corpse sect, separating Yun Jioga from Cho Sin and the others. Yun Jioga broke out in a cold sweat when she heard the bell. This sect master had always been secretive. It was said that he didn't appear even once in 10 years. Only when the 3 elders couldn't make a decision would he send a message back to solve the problem. This time in the small mystery realm, he had also sent a message to the 3 elders to find out the reason for his disappearance. He didn't expect that he would suddenly return. Go, go! Yun Jioga urged. She wanted to jump off Zishang's back and slip away. The sect master had the right to activate the sect's protective formation. If they were really trapped here, they really wouldn't be able to escape. Chapter 350. No need. Zishang had already realized that the Yin energy was protecting them. At this moment, an ancient voice came from the sect master's hall and entered everyone's ears clearly. Come down. Elder Whitebone and Elder Mo Hua immediately stopped and landed in the hall without delay. It seemed that they were very respectful towards this sect master. Cho Sin also followed them with a stern expression. Let's go take a look. Zishang also landed at the entrance of the sect master's hall with Yun Jioga. The gray hall was empty and cold with a tall and majestic stone door. A tall man in black stood in the middle of the hall and said coldly with his back facing everyone, I actually didn't know that Yin Corpse sect had become such a place where the strong bullies the weak and openly bullies disciples. Sect master, you've misunderstood. Elder Mo Hua wanted to explain but was rudely interrupted by the sect master. My Yin Corpse sect is not your harem. If you can't control yourself, then scram to Huan Huan sect. Elder Mo Hua immediately did not dare to say anything. If she could stay in Huan Huan sect, why would she come to Yin Corpse sect? Whitebone, don't covet the junior's things. The sect master raised his hand and a palm-sized yellow crystal flew towards him. It was a bone crystal that was even more valuable than the profound Yin Whitebone monkey. Sect master, I was wrong. Elder Whitebone broke out in a cold sweat and bowed his head. He did not dare to accept the bone crystal. Thus, the bone crystal flew back into the sect master's hand. It seemed that he did not intend to give it away for free. Elder Chosen did not say a word and the sect master ignored him. Instead, he suddenly gave an order. From today onwards, Yun Jio is a disciple of our sect master's peak. If anyone dares to have any ideas about him, don't blame me for being impolite. After saying that, he flicked his sleeves and disappeared from the spot. From the beginning to the end, he didn't even turn around to look at the crowd. Yun Jioga was stunned by this pie that fell from the sky and stood rooted to the ground. This sect master had used the back of his head to suppress 3 elders. He was too awesome and had character. Little Yun Jio is really lucky. Elder Mo Hua looked at Yun Jioga eerily, then looked at Zishang, who was standing next to her, with a pained expression. Zishang took a step back and hid himself behind Yunjioga. This made Elder Mo Hua even angrier. The cooked duck had flown away. She was so angry that her teeth were about to bleed. But since the sect master had given the order, no matter how brave she was, she wouldn't dare to openly force him. Elder Mo Hua, you flatter me. Yunjioga regained his senses and immediately returned the favor. I hope you can live up to my compliment. Elder Mo Hua fiercely threw down this sentence and left without looking back. Elder White Bones swept his gaze over Yunjioga. Although he didn't say anything, his expression clearly said, "Just you wait, I'll kill you one day." As for Cho Sun, he had already turned around and left the moment the sect master left. In the blink of an eye, she was the only one left in the hall. What do we do now? Yunjioga looked at Zishang. This fellow was also a freak. Previously, when he was forced to hide, he wanted to show his face every day. Now that he could appear openly, he fell in love with being invisible. Of course, it's to cultivate in seclusion at the sect master's mountain. Don't show yourself before you advance to the foundation establishment stage. Zishang said. They had offended the 3 elders today. It was better for them to go into seclusion and lie low. Yunjioga deeply agreed with him. She remembered that Jin Chuan was the manager of the sect master's mountain. It was definitely the right choice to look for him. Just as she left the hall, she saw a tall and skinny figure appear on the mountain path. It was Jin Chuan. Senior Jin Chuan, I was just about to look for you. Yunjioga greeted him warmly. Jin Chuan looked at her coldly and said in an indifferent tone, I didn't expect you to be so capable. You actually made the sect master personally come back to take you in as a disciple. The sect master has a good eye for heroes. Yunjioga said shamelessly. Other than this reason, she couldn't think of any other reason. TSK hero. Jin Chuan didn't hide his disdain at all. Yunjioga forgave him for being short-sighted and changed the topic. Senior Jin Chuan, since the sect master has already taken me in as a disciple, where is my cave abode? The sect master didn't give me any instructions. How would I know? Jin Chuan's attitude was very bad. It didn't seem like he was familiar with Yunjioga at all. Senior Jin Chuan, if I remember correctly, I still have something on you. Yunjioga couldn't help but remind him to be nicer and not to offend her. Do you think you still have a way to go back to Enemy Mountain and complain? Jin Chuan sneered, his face full of confidence. Yunjioga was stunned. Finally, she squeezed out a sentence. I don't need to complain. I just need to tell Senior Sister Yu. After all, she was her savior on the surface. She should believe her, right? If you want to complain, go ahead. Jin Chuan waved his hand indifferently and walked into the hall to do his own things. Why don't you beat him up? Yunjioga asked. This Jin Chuan was so despicable. He had to be beaten up. Keep a low profile. Zishang rolled his eyes at Yunjioga. She had just entered the sect master's mountain and she was already causing trouble. Was she afraid that others would think too highly of her? Alright. Yunjioga admitted. To her, keeping a low profile was very important. Since Jin Chuan wouldn't help her arrange a cave, she would find it herself. Yunjioga did what she said. She immediately summoned the treasure-seeking scorpion and ordered, help me find a place with dense spiritual energy. I want to open a cave. Alright. The treasure-seeking scorpion immediately agreed. It jumped off the ground and began to search. Yunjioga took advantage of this time to walk around the sect master's mountain. The sect master's mountain was very large, but there were very few people. There were also very few disciples. It was said that no disciple had joined the sect master's mountain in a long time. This was because once a new disciple came, no one would care about them. The sect master was not here for many years. Everything was left to the vice peak master. But this vice peak master was a strange person. He was in closed-door cultivation for many years and threw everything to his eldest disciple, Xian Ning. Xian Ning was a very loyal person. It was a pity that after he reached the late Foundation establishment realm, he went out to train in order to find his own corpse. It had already been 2 years, but there was no reply. If it wasn't for the fact that his soul lamp was still lit, people would have thought that he had already died. The sect master's mountain was like a group of dragons without a leader. Everyone swept the snow in front of their door, not caring about the frost on other people's roof. The new disciples were left to fend for themselves. There was no one to teach them techniques, and there was no one to guide them in cultivation. The disciples that joined before had all secretly changed sects and went to other peaks. The other peaks accepted them unconditionally, making the sect master's mountain even more desolate. The sect master's mountain is this desolate, but Elder Mo Hua and Elder Whitebone are still afraid of the sect master. This sect master is definitely not simple. Yun Jioga had a look of sorrow. She had a very good impression of this sect master who saved her from danger. Chapter 351. Sect Master is in the later stages of the Golden Core realm while Inkflower and Whitebone are in the early stages. How can they not be afraid? Zishang scoffed. Yun Jioga was used to being beaten down by Zishang. He ignored his disdain and continued to ask, "Did you see Sect Master's face just now?" Besides finding secret rooms and breaking mechanisms, Zishang was also very good at peeking. "I saw a little, but I'm not sure." Zishang frowned. For some reason, he felt that Sect Master looked like a person. "What did you see? Draw it for me." Yun Jioga felt that he had to at least have an idea of what Sect Master looked like. Otherwise, it would be embarrassing if he couldn't recognize him the next time they met. Zishang hesitated for a moment but still drew the portrait of Sect Master. Yun Jioga looked at the portrait of Sect Master and almost fainted. "Why did you draw Ian Shirley?" "That Sect Master looks like Ian Shirley," Zishang said. "Impossible." Yun Jioga denied flatly. Ian Shirley was an unambitious little steward of the outer sect who only wanted to reunite with his family. How could he be related to the mighty Lord Sect Master? This was simply too ridiculous. Zishang didn't explain further. Whether it was or not, there would be a chance to verify it in the future. Anyway, with him around, Xiao Jioga wouldn't be at a disadvantage. Just then, the ground under Yun Jioga's feet flashed yellow and treasure-seeking scorpion appeared. It waved its two pincers excitedly and shouted, "Master, Master, I found a super good place. It's at the mountainside. Let's go take a look." Yun Jioga immediately followed treasure-seeking scorpion to the mountainside excitedly. There were weeds in front of them and it was extremely desolate. There wasn't a single cave abode nearby. It was really a good place to settle down. "Dig down from here and you'll find a spirit vein." Treasure-seeking scorpion pointed to the ground. "Spirit vein? Don't tell me it's the spirit vein of Sect Master Peak." Yun Jioga frowned. This was public property and she couldn't do anything to it. No, this spirit vein is very small. It's just a branch." Treasure-seeking scorpion wasn't stupid. Why would it dig a hole for its master? Moreover, those thick, big and good spirit veins were all occupied by others. It was impossible to go there even if it wanted to. "That's good." Yun Jioga was completely relieved. He took out his bone spur and dug in the direction that the treasure-seeking scorpion had pointed. The hard and dry cave wall in front of him was as soft as tofu in front of the bone spikes. It was as easy as blowing off dust. Yun Jioga quickly dug out a passageway. When he sensed the dense spiritual energy, he immediately decided to stay there. She first installed the wooden door before setting up a defensive formation with Zishang. Finally, she hung up Yun Jio's name tag, officially declaring that this place belonged to her. After Yun Jioga fixed the lintel, he continued to build his little nest. She widened and enlarged the front chamber to serve as an antechamber for visitors. Then he dug out 4 ear chambers at the back, which were used as a quiet room, a bedroom, an alchemy room, and a spirit pet room. The meditation room, bedroom, and alchemy room were all very simple, but she had to spend a lot of effort to decorate the spiritual pet room. First, he divided the room into 3 separate rooms, then covered them with soft cotton wool and planted different kinds of beautiful flowers to decorate them. Finally, he put the treasure-seeking scorpion couple, Pippi Mouse, and the insect cocoon made by the little mother goo into these 3 separate rooms. After eating the pearlfish's inner core, the female scorpion's body became fatter again, from the size of 3 fingers to the size of a palm. The originally light purple carapace now had a little colorful pattern, which would reflect a faint colorful light in places where the sun was strong. It was very beautiful. Wife, this is the place that Master arranged. Do you like it? The treasure-seeking scorpion said to his wife. Although it had also gained a lot of weight during this time, it looked a little petite next to the sturdy female scorpion, but it didn't care at all. Whenever there was something delicious to eat or drink, it would give it to his wife first. After the scorpion was full, he would start to eat the leftovers. However, the female scorpion would leave a lot of leftovers every time. I like it. It's so beautiful. The female scorpion crawled inside and circled a few times, reluctant to come out. However, what it liked the most was the scorpion grass at the entrance of the cave. That was the spiritual grass that accompanied the scorpion nest, and it was also the smell that it had smelled since it was young. It was at ease and comfortable, and it couldn't be any better. As long as you like it. The treasure-seeking scorpion was also very satisfied with this nest, and it felt even more certain that it had followed the right master. Especially after Yunjioga gave them a bottle of cherry pills in the name of celebrating the housewarming, the husband and wife were so excited that they shed tears of gratitude. They said that they must hurry up and make scorpions, so that they wouldn't let down their master's expectations of them. You can't rush things like giving birth. You are still young, so don't be anxious. Let fate decide. Yunjioga comforted them kindly. Master. The husband and wife and the 2 scorpions were even more moved. They hooked their tails together, looking like they couldn't wait to make little scorpions right away. Yunjioga faked 2 coughs and tactfully retreated. When Yunjioga left the spirit pet room, she didn't expect to see Zishang standing behind her when she turned around. She didn't know what he was thinking, but he was extremely lost in thought. What are you doing here? You can't be peeking at them making little scorpions, right? Yunjioga looked at him with disdain, as if she didn't expect him to be such a demon. I can make little demons myself, why do I need to peek at them? Zishang came back to his senses. He blinked his eyes, and the spring light shone in all directions. He had a flirtatious look again. Then do your best. Yunjioga patted Zishang's shoulder and went to the quiet room to prepare to meditate and cultivate. Before the news of the poison in her dantian came, Zishang could only hold back his dual cultivation. If the essence couldn't come out, where would she go to make little demons? So if Zishang wanted to, he could only do his best. Zishang wasn't annoyed. He followed Yunjioga to the quiet room and accompanied her to watch her cultivate. A few days after Yunjioga opened her cave, the omnipotent little fatty came to her door. How did you know that I live here? Yunjioga was really shocked when she saw little fatty at the door. My uncle told me. He has already recorded your cave abode. Little fatty huffed heavily with his hands on his knees. His face was covered in sweat. An outer sect disciple like him couldn't use the God Strider talisman at the sect peak. He could only walk up step by step. He was almost exhausted to death. Yunjioga didn't know that Jin Chuan would record her cave abode. But even so, Jin Chuan still hated it. But little fatty's words were really cute. Therefore, Yunjioga warmly invited little fatty in as a guest. Senior brother Yunjio, your place is amazing. Little fatty looked at the spacious and clean cave abode before him with a face full of admiration. A chi refinement cultivator could enjoy such treatment. Even the sect master's own son didn't have it. Why are you looking for me today? Yunjioga poured a cup of hot tea for little fatty. Little fatty picked it up and took a sip. Then, he told Yunjioga something very seriously. Chapter 352. The Lu sisters have been sent back to the Lu family? Yunjioga was shocked when he heard the news. Why did they send him out all of a sudden? Moreover, he was a good seedling who had been through the trial in a small mystic realm. Elder Mo Hua gave the order. Little fatty sighed. It's true that when the gods fight, the mortals suffer. Now, the disciples of the second peak are having a hard time. They're being ostracized everywhere. Even when they go to take on missions, they're always met with all sorts of difficulties. It was fine for him and Ice Lotus to have someone protecting them in the inner sect, but the normal disciples were the ones who were being bullied. However, they still hugged each other even tighter. Elder Mo Hua and Elder Whitebones have really put a lot of thought into this. Yun Jioga sneered. She knew that the two elders hated her, but she didn't expect it to be to this extent that they wouldn't even let the small fries of Peak 2 off. They were probably doing this to incite the disciples of Mountain Number 2 to feel that they were implicated by her. When these disciples of Peak Number 2 joined the inner sect, they would definitely use all their means to target her. Her days would not be easy. Fortunately, Yun Jioga did not intend to stay in the Een Corps sect forever. Actually, the people of Peak 2 have discussed it privately. We definitely can't go to Inkflower Peak and Whitebone Peak. Enemy Peak isn't a good place either. In the end, we can only follow you to Sect Master Peak, Little Fatty said carefully to Yun Jioga. Are you sure you didn't come here on your own? Yun Jioga couldn't help but glance at Little Fatty. This guy had an uncle who was a steward at the Sect Lord Peak, so he would definitely come to the Sect Lord Peak. However, the Sect Leader Peak was just too desolate. They were on the verge of defeat, and now Little Fatty had pulled in a large group of disciples. It was hard to say what would happen in the future, but it was definitely beneficial for Little Fatty. I will definitely come. However, it is all thanks to senior brother Yun Jio that I was able to convince them, Little Fatty said with a chuckle. Yun Jioga's performance in the small mysterious realm was obvious to everyone. She was calm and resourceful, and the rarest thing was that she was broad-minded. She was able to unite the low-level disciples instead of using them as cannon fodder. The people from the second peak all felt that they would definitely be able to make a living if they followed her. It was better than going to the other peaks and being trampled on. Forget it. Giving me face is more like giving him face. Yun Jioga raised his index finger and pointed to his left. Purple Deceased Sword very cooperatively revealed himself, and then gradually disappeared. Little Fatty's eyes lit up and his excited voice began to tremble. This is your life source Een Corps? Yes, 1,000-year-old one. Yun Jioga kindly added. Little Fatty was even more excited. 1,000-year living corpse was a heavenly treasure that could challenge 3 Jindan stage elders. The Een Corps sect had been around for so many years, but only 3 people had obtained Een Corpses and all of them had become powerful people. Senior brother Yun Jio is still so young, but he has already reached this level. His future is limitless, and following him is definitely the right choice. Yun Jioga waited for Fatty to calm down before asking with dissatisfaction, "Why does your uncle always target me?" No, my uncle is just that kind of person. He treats me the same way. Little Fatty quickly denied, afraid that his future boss would have a conflict with his uncle. Even to you? What, don't you guys have a good relationship? Yun Jioga was trying to get information out of him. Before I was born, my uncle went out to travel. He only came back to see us 2 years ago. Afterwards, he said that my aptitude was not bad, so he let me come to the Een Corps sect. Normally, other than asking him for information and going out to buy and sell, I rarely contact him. Little Fatty said honestly. Yun Jioga thought of Jinchuan's gloomy personality and his serious expression. He couldn't tell that he was a person who loved to buy and sell information unless he had other plans. Little Fatty didn't want to talk about his uncle anymore, so he changed the topic. That's right, senior brother Yun Jio, I heard that you cured Sister Yue? Yun Jioga faintly smiled and casually said, your uncle also told me about this before. It seems like he is very interested in Sister Yue, but these two are quite a good match. Ha, senior brother Yun Jio, don't joke around. How could my uncle be interested in Sister Yue? He hates fickle and shameless women the most. Little Fatty laughed out loud. Every time Yue took in a male pet, his uncle would look like he wanted to kill someone. Good thing your uncle didn't go to the Joyous Union sect, or else he would have died from anger. Yun Jioga also laughed. Using his body to cure the poison of the woman he hated the most, this Jinchuan must have some secrets. That's right. Little Fatty also thought that his uncle was very funny. He was in an evil sect, but he still asked female disciples to be clean. Wasn't that against the sect rules? Yun Jioga chatted with little Fatty for a while longer, and after he found out the time and route that the Lu sisters would be escorted back, he sent him away. Do you want to save the two sisters? Zishang, who had been listening on the side, appeared and asked Yun Jioga. No matter what, they were dragged into this by me. If I can save them, then I will. Yun Jioga indeed wanted to save the Lu sisters. All right. As long as it was what Yun Jioga wanted, he would satisfy it, let alone such a small matter. It was dusk, and the dim yellow sun shone on the earth. On the rugged and steep mountain road, a large carriage with a spirit-sealing talisman stuck on it sped along. The old carriage driver, who had white sideburns and sallow skin, flicked his whip from time to time, directing the single-horned spirit horse to change direction. Beside the carriage were two middle-aged men at the peak of the Qi refinement stage. They were both from the Lu family branch, and they were here to escort the Lu sisters back. The short one with drooping eyebrows was called Lu Yongfu. The tall one with a shrewd face was called Lu Yongge. It's getting dark, let's find a place to rest. Lu Yongfu rode the spirit horse to the old carriage driver's side and shouted. Master said we should try to get back within 5 days. The old carriage driver said awkwardly. If they did not ride at night, they would probably be delayed for a few more days. Are you stupid? Master only said try, not for sure. When the time comes, we can just find an excuse. Lu Yongfu looked impatient. He was at the peak of the Qi refinement stage, 5 realms higher than the old carriage driver, so he did not take him seriously at all. The old carriage driver was still a bit hesitant. Lu Yongge ran over and advised, Old friend, listen to us. Later, find a place to settle down, and we'll let you enjoy it first. Enjoy? The old carriage driver was confused. He did not know what there was to enjoy in this wilderness. Idiot, you still don't understand? Lu Yongfu pointed at the carriage with the spirit-sealing talisman and said lecherously, 2 beauties for you to play with first, isn't that enjoying? The old carriage driver was shocked and hurriedly said, but this is the eldest and second miss of the family. Chapter 353. That's why it's so exciting. Lu Yongfu's eyes shone with a wretched light, looking like he couldn't wait. But the old driver couldn't help but swallow his saliva. He was obviously tempted, but he was still a little hesitant. Don't worry. Who doesn't know that eldest miss and second miss were sent by the patriarch to be cauldrons of the evil sect? They've been played to death over the years. The 3 of us are straightforward, the patriarch won't say anything if he knows. Lu Yonggue encouraged. That's right, I heard that the patriarch plans to send them to the furnace yard. In the future, they'll be able to kill tens of thousands of people. Let's just treat it as opening business for them. Lu Yongfu laughed. All right. The old driver was quickly convinced. He had seen how the Lu sisters were taken into the carriage. If they went back, they would probably be sent to a brothel to be cauldrons, just like what those 2 guys said. Thinking about it this way, playing around was not a big deal. Moreover, when he thought about the high and mighty eldest miss and second miss being humiliated by a lowly driver like him, he was extremely excited. He immediately commanded the carriage to run towards the forest not far away. Inside the carriage, the Lu sisters who had been fed the paralysis medicine looked very miserable. Their hair was messy, their clothes were messy, their hands were tied behind their backs with a red rope, and their legs were also tightly bound. The most humiliating and hateful thing was that there was a black dog collar around their necks. It was chained to the head of the spirit-locking spell. Sister, just listen to me this once. Lu Tiana looked at Lu Mei, pleadingly. You don't need to say anything, I won't agree. Lu Mei was indifferent to her sister's pleading. But if this goes on, we'll all die. Lu Tianer's suppressed voice was full of pain. She had the netherworld Dao body. In the Yin Corpse sect, apart from cultivating the outer techniques, she had also secretly cultivated in the direction of a living corpse. She was worried that today's situation would happen again. The only way now was to die. As long as she died, she could directly turn into a living corpse and help her sister kill their way out. Do you think I can live in peace if you die? No one is allowed to give up until the last moment. Lu Mei gritted her teeth. She was already ruined, so she absolutely could not watch her sister walk on the road to death. Sister. Lu Tian'er sighed, knowing that her sister would not give in. Anyway, her nether ghost aura could be activated at any time. She would just wait with her sister until the last moment. At this moment, the carriage suddenly stopped, and the tightly shut door opened, revealing a wretched and disgusting face. Eldest miss, second miss, staying here must be very uncomfortable, right? This little one will immediately come to serve you. I guarantee that you will have a great time, Lu Yongfu said with a smile. Pa, who do you think you are? How dare you offend your superiors? Aren't you afraid that your uncle will kill you? Lu Mei raised her eyebrows, her expression extremely fierce. Bitch, why don't you take a look at your current situation? You still dare to act mighty in front of me? Lu Yongfu stretched out his hand and pulled the iron chain. Lu Mei's neck was strangled tightly, and her face immediately turned green. Let go of my sister. Lu Tian'er was so angry that her eyes turned red. She wanted to rush over, but she was restrained by the dog leash, which made a rattling sound. Bitch, serve me well and I will make you feel better. Otherwise, I will make you suffer. Lu Yongfu turned his hand and slapped Lu Tian'er's face to one side, leaving a bright red palm print on her white face. All right, Yongfu, be gentle. No matter what, she is still the eldest and second miss of the Lu clan. You have to give her some face. Lu Yonggrui came up to persuade him hypocritically. Lu Yongfu then let go of the iron chain in his hand. Looking at the bruise on Lu Mei's neck, his heart was indescribably satisfied and refreshed. He could not wait to add a few more marks on her body. Didn't you say that you would let me enjoy first? The old carriage driver squeezed in and looked at the Lu sisters greedily. Can you go on too? All right, you pick one first. Us two brothers will play with the other one. We will exchange later. Lu Yongfu said with a smile. All right, then I will pick second miss. The old carriage driver could not wait to climb into the carriage and pounce on Lu Tian'er. The other two snickered as they surrounded Lu. The carriage became crowded with 3 men at once, and there was even a sweaty smell. Lu Mei bit her lips tightly. Her eyes were about to bleed, but she had no way to resist. It was just like when she was thrown to the evil old monster. However, at that time, the evil old monster was in the late stage of foundation establishment. After all, he was a character. He had plucked tens of thousands of girls, so the two sisters were nothing. Occasionally, when the old monster was in a good mood, he would even give them pointers in cultivation. But now, these 3 pieces of trash were nothing. They were lowly people who were not even fit to carry shoes for the two sisters in the Lu clan. How dare they bully them? They deserved to die 10,000 times. Lu Tian'er stared at the old carriage driver. Her black eyes were burning with a cold flame. She was like a devil that crawled out of hell, and her whole body was emitting a terrifying aura. The old carriage driver was frightened by her gaze. He could not help but take a few steps back and bumped into the back of the other two. I say, Old Tai, you're really too much of a coward. You don't even dare to touch a little girl whose spiritual power is sealed. It's better to stay on the side and come back after we've had our fun. Lu Yongfu scolded as he pushed the old carriage driver aside and walked towards Lu Tian. When he saw Lu Tian'er's terrifying gaze, his heart felt stifled, but he immediately slapped her and scolded, What are you looking at? Do you believe that I won't dig your eyes out? The flame in Lu Tian'er's eyes burned brighter and brighter. The ghost energy that had accumulated near her heart slowly exploded. She was about to be ignited and turned into a living corpse. At this moment, a cold voice sounded from outside the carriage. "Io, it's so lively here." The old carriage driver was shocked and quickly jumped out of the carriage. Lu Yongfu and Lu Yongge also followed out and found that the defensive formation they had set up was trampled to pieces. A youth with red eyes and purple lips, who was at Chi Disciple Level 5, was standing in the middle and looking at them with interest. "Brat, I advise you to mind your own business. Otherwise, you won't even know how you died." Lu Yongfu found that the youth in front of him was only at Chi Disciple Level 5. He immediately let out a sigh of relief and fiercely shouted, Lu Yongui was much more careful than him. He carefully looked at the youth in front of him and faintly guessed that he was a disciple of the Een Corpse sect. He put on a smile and said, "Little brother, you also came because of the fragrance, right? You really know what's good for you. These two sisters are top-quality goods. Now that they are under the spirit-locking curse, we can do whatever we want with them. If you want to join in, it won't be difficult. You can come once for 600 spirit jades." Lu Yongui actually sold the Lu sisters as cultivation furnaces on the spot. Lu Mei Er revealed a sinister smile. However, she did not take out her bone spear. Instead, she took out a red doll from her storage pouch. The doll had hands and feet, and its hair was black and glossy. The joints of its fingers were distinct, and the workmanship was very exquisite. The strange thing was that there were no eyebrows, eyes, or nose on that round face, only a small cherry red mouth, as if it was smeared with blood. "Good boy, go and avenge your sister." There had a gentle yet strange smile on her face. She stroked the doll's shiny hair and put it on the ground. The rag doll wobbled its way towards the old coachman. "First, miss, spare me, spare me." The old coachman's begging voice suddenly stopped as he fell down with wide eyes filled with fear. The red doll lay on his neck, revealing the sharp teeth in its small cherry red mouth. It bit into the old coachman's throat and sucked large mouthfuls of blood. "Een Corpse doll, this one of yours is quite special." But this kind of special Een Corpse could only be refined by the Lu sisters. "Senior brother Yunjiu overpraises me." Lu Mei Er smiled. After ordering the Een Corpse doll to suck the old coachman dry, it went to suck the other two that had just died. "What do you plan on doing in the future?" Yun Jioga asked about serious matters. "We'll talk after we leave this place." Lu Mei Er had a blank look on her face. She had the mark of a lowly slave on her body. Without the Een Corpse sex array, she could not escape the Lu family's pursuit. They could find her at any time. "Does senior brother Yunjiu have any suggestions?" Lu Tian put away the red paper man and looked at Yunjioga with a face full of expectation. After eating and drinking its fill, the Een Corpse doll jumped onto her shoulder and tilted its head as it looked at Yunjioga. "No." Yunjioga honestly shook her head. She was not familiar with this place, so she did not have any good suggestions. The Lu sisters' faces instantly dimmed. They could not go back to the Een Corpse sect. If they went to another evil sect, there was a chance that they would be sent back. At that time, it would be hard to sneak away. Their spirit energy would be sealed by the sect and they would be given to others. That would be even worse. "No matter what, we have to thank senior brother Yunjiu for saving our lives. If we have the chance, we will definitely repay you." Lu Mei Er forced herself to smile and said, "There's no need to repay me as long as you live well." Yun Jioga waved her hand. She was only here to repay her debt. The Lu sisters became even more sad. Senior brother Yunjiu was so strong, how could they repay him? It was all just empty words. "It's getting late, you should leave now." Yun Jioga saw Zi Shang's impatient expression and prepared to leave. "Senior brother Yunjiu, I have something to ask of you." Lu Tian quickly said. "Say it." After this separation, it would be difficult to meet again, so Yun Jioga was quite easy to talk to. "Senior brother Yunjiu, since you are so good at alchemy, can you help my sister refine a pill that can cover the mark?" Lu Tian mustered up her courage and asked. "Cover what mark?" Yun Jioga asked. "The mark of a lowly slave. I have already been given to the evil old monster as a cauldron. He left a mark on my back." Lu Mei Er said before her sister could speak. "Let me see." Yun Jioga was expressionless. He did not look down on Lu Mei Er because of this, nor did he feel any sympathy. It was a very normal look. Lu Mei Er could not help but let out a sigh of relief. Although she had been trampled all these years, she still did not want to lose face in front of this senior brother. "Here." Lu Tian did not think too much and pulled her sister's clothes to the left, revealing a dark red mark. The words "lowly slave" could be clearly seen. Yun Jioga walked up to take a closer look and found that this mark was also a dark spirit talisman. It used the words, lowly slave, to drill into Lu Mei Er's bone marrow. The person who made the mark could then use this to determine where she said she was. This mark is made by a dark spirit talisman. No pill can cover it. Yun Jioga shook his head. Even if he made a pill, it would only be able to cover it temporarily. Lu Tian was indescribably disappointed. Lu Mei Er was already used to facing disappointment. She even comforted her sister, "It's okay. At most, we will leave the boundless mountains. I heard that the Zhongzhou is a good place. Let's find a place to cultivate and come back for revenge." "Okay." Lu Tian nodded. The Zhongzhou mountain was a place where evil, and righteous sects intersected. It was a very chaotic place. With the two sisters' current cultivation, it would be very dangerous. But as long as they could be with their sister, nothing else mattered. I only said that no pill can cover this mark. I did not say that it can't be removed. Yun Jioga felt that these two sisters were too pessimistic. They did not wait for him to finish speaking. It was not a good habit. Chapter 355. Senior Yun Jio, can you really help my sister remove the mark? Lu Tianer's eyes lit up. Could it be that Yun Jio was going to send out his 1,000-year zombie? But this 1,000-year zombie was not easy to talk to. How did Yun Jio convince him? This brand has already penetrated deep into your bones. If you want to completely remove it, you have to cleanse this part of your marrow and bones. The process will be very painful. Can you endure it? There was no need for Zishang to do such a small thing. Yun Jioga could do it himself. It was just that the process was a bit bloody and painful. It was up to Lu Mei, whether she was willing or not. I can bear it, Lu Mei said without hesitation. As long as she could get rid of this slave identity, she was not afraid of any pain. All right, let's find a safe place to start. Yun Jioga could not leave the sect leader's peak for too long. Okay. The two sisters nodded. After burning all the traces, they left with Yun Jioga. Yun Jioga found a random cave and cleaned it up to make a simple stone bed. He then let Zishan take a look outside. Take off your clothes and lie down on the stone bed. Yun Jioga said to Lu Mei as he prepared the spirit grass and medicinal ingredients. Lu Mei did not argue. She took off her shirt and wore only a pair of white underwear before lying on the stone bed. The gray stone bed, white skin, and crisscrossed red scars created a beautiful atmosphere. Any normal man would definitely be attracted. Unfortunately, Yun Jioga was not in the mood to appreciate it. He was completely focused on concocting the medicine. Lu Tianer nervously waited by the side. She looked at her sister and then at Yun Jioga. Use this medicine to wash your sister's back. Yun Jioga concocted a bottle of light blue medicine and gave it to Lu Tian. What is it used for? Lu Tianer could not help but ask. It's used for clearing heat and detoxifying sewage. Quickly apply it on her. Yun Jioga said without turning his head and poured the medicine into a small bowl. I'll apply it now. Lu Tianer saw that Yun Jioga was busy and did not dare to ask anymore. She quickly took a white cloth and dipped it in the medicine before applying it carefully. Lu Mei could clearly feel the cold medicinal liquid spread over her body, bringing with it a taste similar to strong alcohol. After Lu Tianer had applied the medicine carefully, Yun Jioga put down the small bowl and walked over. She gestured a few times above Lu Mei Er's brand, then said to the two sisters, later on, I will first destroy this brand's talisman pattern, then force out its incantation source. Your sister's current cultivation is still not enough. When the time comes, I will need your help. Then what should I do? Lu Tianer asked nervously. Just grab her feet and listen to my command. When I say charge, both of you have to force the source of the curse out at the same time. It's similar to how we caught the Een moths earlier. Yun Jioga was confident in the twins' teamwork. Okay, I got it. Lu Tianer immediately walked behind her sister and reached out to grab her feet. She aimed her palm at the Yongquan acupuncture point. There's no need to rush. There'll be at least 2 more hours before it starts. You should meditate and rest first. After that, Recover your spiritual power, Yunjioga said. Just now, Lu Tian'er had the thought of risking her life, so her heart meridians were a little chaotic. She needed to adjust her breathing. Okay. Lu Tian'er also knew that her body's condition was not good, so she obediently sat in a corner to recuperate. Yunjioga took out the Thunderfire Needle and began to destroy the Yin Spirit Talisman. Thanks to Zi Shang's advice, Yunjioga's understanding of talisman patterns had become much deeper. He had also studied the Yin Spirit Talisman patterns thoroughly. After all, Yin Spirit Talisman patterns were the most abundant in Yin Spirit Talisman patterns in the Yin Corpse sect. The Yin Spirit Talisman brand in front of him had a total of 108 meridians. Only by destroying them one by one in order would he be able to find the deepest incantation source. That was the key to removing the brand. Yunjioga calmed his mind. After confirming his target, the Thunderfire Needle immediately descended. The first meridian was destroyed with a bang, releasing a faint gray Yin Qi. Then the second meridian, third, fourth. In the beginning, the meridians were still very clear. After the 50th meridian, a thick gray shrouded the entire brand, making it impossible to see anything clearly. Fortunately, these meridians did not move. Yunjioga relied on his amazing memory to destroy all 108 meridians. After the gray qi dissipated, the thumb-sized incantation source was revealed. The gray qi was like a slug, tightly glued to Lu Mei's bones. The countless tentacle-like things under its body had already fused with the bone marrow. Charge! Yunjioga ordered. Lu Tian'er, who had already woken up, grabbed onto her sister's foot. The moment she heard the order, she poured all of her spiritual energy into the slug and rushed towards the shoulder along with her sister's spiritual energy. The slug moved slightly and unwillingly floated up a little. The tentacles pulled on Lu Mei's bone marrow and pulled it up. Lu Mei was in so much pain that she broke out in cold sweat. Her fingers gripped the stone bed tightly, but she did not dare to say a word. Continue. Yunjioga focused all his attention on the slug's movements and ordered the Lu sisters to continue without a trace of politeness. Lu Mei was in so much pain that her face was covered in sweat. Her nails were deeply dug into the stone bed, but there was no reaction. Her consciousness became more and more blurry, and the circulation of her spiritual energy also slowed down. Senior Yunjio, my sister can't hold on any longer. What should we do? Lu Tian'er's heart ached when she saw her sister's blood-stained fingers. The amount of spiritual energy she poured into the slug also decreased. You have to hold on even if you can't, unless you want her to carry the mark of this lowly slave for the rest of her life. Yunjioga's tone was ruthless, but his eyes didn't even blink as he observed the slug. At this time, the slug had completely floated up, and more than half of its tentacles had been forced out. There was no way it could retreat at this critical moment. Sister, bear with it. It'll be fine once it's forced out. In the end, Lu Tian'er hardened her heart and poured more spiritual energy into her sister's body. Lu Mei felt as if a small knife was scraping her bone marrow. The pain was so excruciating that her limbs began to violently twitch. Hold on a little longer. It'll be fine soon. Yunjioga firmly held onto Lu Mei. The slug had completely floated up, and only the thickest tentacle was stubbornly holding on. Yunjioga picked up the Thunderfire Needle and quickly plucked out the last tentacle. The slug completely lost its host and flew out like lightning. Just as Yunjioga was about to grab it, he heard Lu Mei scream. The spiritual energy in her body instantly collapsed, and she fainted on the bed. Even her heart stopped beating. Sister! Lu Tian'er screamed and hurriedly rushed over to check on her condition. Move, don't be a hindrance. Yunjioga couldn't care less about grabbing the slug. He hurriedly flipped Lu Mei over, and the Thunderfire Needle instantly landed on her heart. He made a hand seal and formed a small lightning bolt. Chapter 356. Purple lightning followed the needle and hit Lu Mei's chest. Her body bounced up and down, and after a few times, her heart finally started beating again. Sister, wake up. Lu Tian'er patted her sister's face, tears streaming down her face. Give her this pill, she'll wake up in a bit. Yun-jyoga hurriedly threw down a pill and chased after her. If they couldn't catch the caterpillar, it would run back into Lu-mei's body and become a brand again. However, outside the door was a vast field. There was nothing around, and the caterpillar had long since disappeared. Are you looking for this? Zishang appeared in front of her, his slender fingers pinching a gray slug. Zishang, you're really amazing. I knew with you here, there would be no problems. Yun-jyoga forgot how cold she was when she sent Zishang to guard the door and smiled innocently. As long as you know. Zishang glanced at her and returned the slug to Yun-jyoga. Yun-jyoga wrapped it with spiritual power and hurriedly returned to the cave. Zishang tactfully continued to guard the door. At this time, Lu-mei had already woken up, but she was still lying on the stone bed. No need to lie down, quickly put on your clothes and come deal with the curse. Yun-jyoga put the slug in a small bowl he prepared. The small bowl was filled with the translucent liquid refined from a spiritual treasure. The slug struggled desperately to leave, but it was as if it had fallen into a swamp and couldn't move. Lu-mei casually put on her clothes and asked Yun-jyoga, "How do I deal with this?" "Put 2 drops of blood in it, and it will be completely devoured within 3 days. Then you can find the person who put the curse on you," Yun-jyoga explained. "How far is it?" Lu-mei asked while dripping blood. "I can sense his location within 300 miles. This distance was enough for them to escape. Sister, this is great. We don't have to be afraid of that evil old monster coming to catch us anymore." Lu Tian was overjoyed. The Lu family only had one foundation establishment cultivator, and he wouldn't lower himself to kill the 2 sisters. Only that evil old monster in the middle stage of foundation establishment had been eyeing them covetously. Now that he had this location, he could avoid him in advance. "Thank you, senior brother Yun-jyo." Lu-mei carefully put away the small bowl and bowed to Yun-jyoga. "We sisters will repay the great kindness you have shown us in the future, even if we have to work like an ox or a horse." Lu Tiana followed her sister's example and bowed to Yun-jyoga thrice. Yun-jyoga didn't avoid it. Although these things were nothing to her, it was like giving a new lease of life to these 2 sisters. It wasn't too much to accept their 3 kowtows. "Since you're fine, I'm relieved. All right, this is the bill for the removal of the brand. It's all the cost price. Take a look and see when you can return it." Yun-jyoga recorded all the materials needed to remove the brand on the spot and wrote the prices neatly behind them. She had bought those materials with her own money. Of course, she had to pay for them. It was already very kind of her not to charge any medical fees or surgery fees. The Lu sisters had been with Yun-jyoga for a long time and understood her personality very well. They didn't think there was anything wrong with this. However, after the 2 of them looked at the bill, their faces turned pale. Just the flowers and spirit herbs were worth tens of thousands of spirit jades. The other things were also worth 3,000 to 4,000 spirit jades. How could the 2 sisters take out such a sum of money right now? "Senior brother Yun-jyo, we don't have money right now. Can we put it on the bill first and return it later?" Lu Tianer asked pitifully. "Give me whatever you have. We can owe the rest for now." Yun-jyoga was quite easy to talk to. At least, she didn't plan on emptying the 2 sisters' savings. However, rules were rules. There was no reason to make them pay for nothing. The Lu sisters had stayed in the Een Corpse sect for more than half a year. They spent all their time cultivating. The little spirit jades they had saved were not even enough. It was useless even if they took it out. Most importantly, they had no one to rely on. If they gave away all their savings, they wouldn't even be able to support themselves in the future. "Sister, didn't you say that father left something for us? See if there's anything we can use to repay the debt." Lu Tiana pulled on her sister's sleeve and gave her a look. Lu-mei immediately understood. Before their father died, he left a secret letter for the 2 sisters. He said that he found a ruin of evil cultivators in the central state. He told the 2 sisters to go there when they had the ability. That was why she said she wanted to go to the central state. This was their last resort. What if senior brother Yun-jyo became greedy after seeing the money? She didn't dare to take such a risk. Although senior brother is kind, we can't always let him work for free. Lu Tian'er gave her sister another look. The central state was very dangerous. It was too dangerous for the two sisters to go alone. Even if there really was something good in the ruin, it was not something they could think about. It was better to give it to senior brother Yunjiao as a way to repay him for saving their lives. Senior brother Yunjiao was righteous and generous. He wouldn't mistreat them. Sister is right. Lu Mei-er quickly made her decision. She told Yunjioga about the ruin her father found in the central state. In the end, she sincerely said, "If senior brother Yunjiao can accompany us to the central state, you can choose whatever you want from the ruin." Let me think about it. Yunjioga was not immediately moved. She began to evaluate whether this trip was worth it or not. She had heard about the chaos in the central state, but with Zishang by her side, it shouldn't be a big problem. When they passed by the Thunder Country, she could sneak back and give the Yiyunji to Yiyu. Thinking about it like this, she could kill two birds with one stone. Lu Mei-er nervously looked at Yunjioga. When she revealed this secret, she was worried that she would be silenced. Now seeing Yunjioga hesitate, she was worried that she wouldn't go. Since we've decided to go to the central state, we need to make preparations. We can't just rush in like this. I need to go back and take care of the Corpse sect. It would be best if the two of you go into seclusion and raise your cultivation to the next level. Then you can make some defensive items. As Yunjioga spoke, her thoughts became clear. She began to teach them by name. Lu Mei, although your Corpse puppet is not bad, it lacks a core, so it isn't very strong. I'll lend you 5,000 spirit jades and you can go to a nearby shop to find a good inner core. It would be best if it was a demonic monkey's inner core. I'll help you refine it into a core. Cores were usually made from demonic beasts' inner cores and only weapon refiners could refine them. Because refining a core took a lot of effort, the lowest grade core would cost several tens of thousands of spirit jades and it wasn't that easy to use. Although Yunjioga didn't know how to refine weapons, she knew how to refine pills. When the time came, the core could still be used. Chapter 357. Many thanks, senior brother. Lu Mei-er excitedly nodded her head. She had wanted to make a core for her Corpse puppet for a long time. It was a pity that she was short of money and could only dream about it. She never thought that the opportunity would come so quickly. Senior brother, what about me? Lu Tian'er impatiently asked. A Corpse puppet had already used up all of their savings. Other than the bone spikes on her body, she had nothing else useful. Your biggest weapon is yourself. The 9 Netherworld Dao body, a natural-born living corpse, was even stronger than Yiyunji's spirit Dao body. Senior brother wants me to activate the 9 Netherworld Dao body? Lu Tian'er frowned and said, but the ghost chi on my body is already very heavy. If I do it again, I'm afraid my heart will be completely corroded by the ghost chi and I'll become a living corpse. Actually, she didn't need to do it too many times. If she did it again, her little life would be over. I have a method here, but I don't know if you're willing to use it. Yunjioga said with some hesitation. Senior brother Yun, why don't you tell me? Lu Tian'er cautiously asked, not daring to rashly agree. This thing can help you solve the ghost chi problem. Yunjioga's right hand turned over and a palm-sized black flower pot appeared. There were several red spirit talismans carved on it. There was a layer of red soil in the flower pot with a thumb-sized gray seed in the middle. She could faintly see a frightened face inside the seed. Isn't this the seed of the frightening spirit grass? Lu Tian'er asked in confusion. This frightening spirit grass not only emitted gray chi, it would also scream when it smelled a person from afar. It was a seed unique to evil sections. The frightening spirit grass was usually used for defense, but there were people who specifically planted it in mass graves to create a terrifying aura and then add in some chi. The valley in the center of the chi cemetery was filled with frightening spirit grass. It was used to maintain the chi cemetery. If a disciple with insufficient cultivation entered the valley, they would be scared to death by the terrifying screams. That's right, this is a frightening spirit grass seed that I accidentally obtained. It needs large amounts of ghost chi to germinate. It's just right for your situation. Yun Jyoga pointed at the bottom of the flower pot and the Een spirit talismans around it and said, "This is a ghost-absorbing talisman. As long as you hold this flower pot, it will automatically absorb the ghost chi in your body." Really? Lu Tiana was doubtful. Over the years, she had tried all kinds of methods to get rid of the cold ghost chi in her body, and she really didn't believe that this small and broken flower pot could solve the problem. "Why don't you try it and you'll know?" Yun Jyoga handed over the small flower pot. Lu Tiana took it and placed her palm on the bottom of the flower pot. An extremely frightened face immediately appeared on the soul-shocking grass. The red soil rotated on its own without any wind, forming a small whirlpool. Lu Tiana immediately discovered a huge suction force coming from the whirlpool, sucking in the Een chi in her body. In less than an hour, the Een cold ghost chi that had troubled her for a long time was completely absorbed. The human face of the soul-shocking grass disappeared, and the red soil returned to its original position. The color was darker than before. "Senior brother Yun Jyoga, you're really amazing." Lu Tiana was full of admiration for Yun Jyoga. With this treasure, she could boldly use her netherworld Taoist body in the future. "Senior brother Yun Jyoga, how long can this artifact be used for?" Lumua was more cautious, worried that her sister would get carried away and overuse it. "At least 150 times. At that time, the soil would turn black and the soul-shocking grass would completely germinate." Yun Jyoga took out this artifact that could absorb ghost chi not to help Lu Tiana, but because she needed high-quality soul-shocking grass to detoxify the second layer of the 9 bone shatterers poison. Third-stage high-grade soul-shocking grass could be sold for about 20,000 spirit jades on the market, and 7,000 sect contribution points were not hard to find. However, Zi Shang felt that it was impossible to buy high-quality soul-shocking grass outside, so he cultivated it himself. Zi Shang went to the Een Energy Cemetery to get the best seed, and then went to Ink Flower Peak to dig up the last bit of blood soil. Finally, he refined this small flower pot, and gave it to her when he set off to save the Lu sisters. Originally, Yun Jyoga didn't want to use it. She felt that the Lu sisters were already miserable enough, and it was too much for her to use them. However, although this artifact can absorb ghost chi, if you use it for a long time, the netherworld Taoist body will slowly disappear. Although it won't affect your cultivation level, I still hope that you will think about it carefully. Not only would this thing absorb the Een energy in Lu Tiana's body, but it would also destroy her Taoist body. It was not a good thing. It's better if it disappears. Lu Tiana didn't care about her broken body at all. Although her cultivation speed was slightly faster than others, it was not worth mentioning compared to the consequences of being exposed. "Senior brother Yun Jyo, are you sure that disappearing Taoist body won't affect my sister?" Lumua asked nervously. She was afraid that her sister would become a cripple if her Taoist body disappeared, and that would be the end of her. There will more or less be some side effects. After her netherworld Taoist body disappears, she won't be able to unleash the power of a living corpse, and her cultivation speed will also decrease. She will probably drop to the same level as you. Yun Jyoga said truthfully. "It will be good if she can reach the same speed as my sister." Lu Tiana felt that her sister's cultivation speed was still very fast. It's great that she won't become a living corpse again. Lumua was also very satisfied. "Since you guys have agreed, then keep the flower pot. I'll get you another one when it's no longer needed." Although Yun Jyoga only needed 1 soul-shocking grass, it would be good to grow it and store it. Zi Shang had said that the soul-shocking grass had other special uses. "Thank you, senior brother." Lu Tiana put the flower pot away like a treasure. "If there's nothing else, I'll return to the Een Corpse sect first. I'll go to the Central Plains in 3 months. Take these 2 communication talismans, I'll inform you when the time comes." Yun Jyoga took out 2 high-level communication talismans and generously said that he wouldn't charge them for it. "Senior brother, take care." The Lu sisters happily took the communication talismans and respectfully sent Yun Jyoga off. "Sister, where are we going next?" Lu Tiana turned her head and looked at her sister with a burning gaze. There's still some time left. Let's go into seclusion to heal first, then go back to the Liu family to see our good uncle. Liu Meier's gaze was vicious. Although they were still not her uncle's match, they could still give him some trouble to take revenge. Yun Jioga didn't know that the Liu sisters' confidence had increased after receiving her guidance and were preparing to go to the Liu family to cause trouble. After she returned to her cave abode, she began to busy herself with her plan. She didn't know how long it would take to go to the Central Plains this time, so she had to think of a way to go into seclusion. Chapter 358. We've already gone into closed-door cultivation once. What excuse do you think we should come up with? Yun Jioga asked Zishang. What's there to think about? It's only natural for cultivators to go into seclusion. Zishang gave her a contemptuous look. I'm just feeling guilty. She had gone into seclusion to cultivate the last time after she had finished setting up the abode of Immortal's cave. Until little Fatty came to find her. Now that she said she wanted to go into seclusion again, she felt that it was inappropriate. Zishang was speechless when faced with such an honest Yun Jioga. Forget it. Let's get ready for seclusion first. Yun Jioga quickly made a decision. He went to the mission hall to get a token to enter the Yin Energy Cemetery. The journey to Zhongzhou was quite long, and the Liu sisters were poor, so they needed her help. She planned to refine some Yin Meridian protection pills and sell them in a nearby workshop to earn some traveling expenses. The Yin Meridian protection pill was a Tier 3 pill, an upgraded version of the Yin Gathering pill. It could increase the speed of a Foundation establishment cultivator's cultivation. It was said that a single low-grade spirit pill could be sold for 5,000 spirit jades. However, refining this pill required a large amount of Yin Qi, so he had to go to the Yin Qi cemetery to collect it. The mission hall of the Inner Sanctum disciples looked magnificent. There were all kinds of missions inside, and the contribution points were several times higher than the Outer Sanctum missions. At this moment, there were hundreds of people gathered inside, and it was very noisy and lively. Yun Jioga walked into the Hall of Missions and glanced around. He then walked to the front desk where there were fewer people. The disciple in charge was dressed in black with a white skull embroidered on his chest. He was a disciple of White Bone Peak. At this moment, he had his head lowered and seemed to be organizing something. I want to take the mission to kill Yin ghosts, Yun Jioga said. Just a moment. The disciple in charge raised his head and saw Yun Jioga. He immediately frowned and said, "This is not a place for outer sect disciples like you. I am an inner sect disciple of the sect Master Mountain." Yun Jioga knew that his cultivation level had caused a misunderstanding. Although she had already advanced to the 6th stage of Qi cultivation, there was still a long way to go before she reached the foundation building stage. It was no wonder that this disciple would misunderstand. Sect Leader Peak? The disciple in charge seemed to have thought of something as he sized up Yun Jioga. It seemed like he had already recognized her. The commotion here also attracted the attention of the surrounding people, and the sounds of discussion arose. Is that the disciple who was tortured by the 1,000-year-old corpse? That's right, the one who sells chrysanthemums in exchange for cultivation. He's not bad-looking. No wonder he's taken a fancy to him. Tisk, it's neither human nor ghost, neither yin nor yang. It's disgusting to look at it. Thanks to Elder Mo Hua and Elder Baigu, Yun Jioga had become famous in the Yin Corpse sect. People called him a little boy selling chrysanthemums. Yun Jioga didn't think that selling chrysanthemums had anything to do with him, so his expression didn't change. He continued to say to the disciple in charge, "The task of killing the evil ghost, thank you." The disciple in charge rolled his eyes and revealed an embarrassed expression. He said to Yun Jioga, "I'm sorry, the task of killing the Yin ghosts has been taken." Yun Jioga looked at the mission list hanging high in the back of the mission hall and narrowed her eyes. Trying to trick her? How bold! These missions have already been confirmed by the people from White Bone Peak and Ink Flower Peak. They will come over to collect them later. The disciple in charge raised his voice and shouted, Yeah, we've already made up our minds." The disciples of the White Bone Peak and the Ink Flower Peak in the lobby immediately gathered around, and accepted all the tasks of killing the ghosts in a flurry. The other disciples at the front desk also quietly accepted the task. The disciple in charge smiled and introduced to Yunjioga with pretended enthusiasm. "Junior brother, in fact, we have many tasks with high contribution points here. For example, guarding the mine and staying there for a month can get 5,000 contribution points. And this, killing the demonic beasts in the Deep Abyss Valley can get 10,000 contribution points." Yunjioga glanced at the mission recommended by the disciple. Not only did they have to leave the Een Corpse sect, but they were also very difficult. There were very few people who accepted them. It was obvious that they had bad intentions. Yunjioga politely said, "Thank you for your kindness, senior brother. However, I need to go into seclusion to collect Een Chi. Since I've finished today's task of killing Een ghosts, I'll come back tomorrow." Yunjioga politely said, "Junior brother, the task of killing the evil ghosts has been taken by our Ink Flower Peak and White Bone Peak recently. I'm afraid that you will come here in vain tomorrow." The disciple in charge saw Yunjioga's weak and bullied appearance, so he gradually became bolder. The other disciples also followed and said, "Not to mention tomorrow, even the day after tomorrow or the year after next, there will be no task for you. Just go back and hug your old corpse to sleep. You can go up a few days with your cultivation. Why do you still have to work so hard? That's right, you can cultivate while lying down. I am so envious." The disciples present were all at the early stage of foundation establishment. In their eyes, the chi condensation stage was like an ant that could be easily crushed. Although everyone knew that Yunjioga had a 1,000-year-old corpse, they were not convinced until they saw it with their own eyes. Yunjioga looked at these people who were not afraid of death with interest. On the contrary, Zishang was a little impatient. He raised his palm, and countless fishes of purple mist slithered behind the triumphant disciples, opening their mouths and ripping off their clothes. Those disciples who were teasing were horrified to find that their clothes were quickly disappearing, and their bodies were involuntarily flying outside. In the blink of an eye, half of the people in the mission hall had been cleared. The disciple in charge was at the top of the mission hall, and below him was a row of fellow sufferers. All of them were naked, and the words F***CKME were very eye-catching. "Leave a pair of pants, so that my eyes won't be dirty," Yunjioga added coldly. The disciples who were about to run naked managed to save their last bit of dignity, and a small piece of cloth covered their sensitive parts. "I should have given them some aphrodisiac." Zishang was a little regretful. If it was somewhere else, he would be able to have a good time. "Is aphrodisiac free?" Yunjioga silently rolled her eyes. They were just a bunch of disciples who were gossiping, and it was enough to teach them a lesson. Why waste so much effort? Completing the mission was more important. Yunjioga changed to another receptionist. This time, it was a female disciple from the Ink Flower Peak. As soon as she saw her, she couldn't help but cross her arms, as if she was afraid of being molested. Even if the Ink Flower Peak was open, it was not open to the point of stripping naked for others to see. "Miss, do you still have missions to kill Een ghosts?" Yunjioga asked very politely. Yes. The female disciple immediately took out a few tokens to enter the Een Energy Cemetery and respectfully placed them in front of Yunjioga. "Thank you." Yunjioga randomly chose a token and left the silent mission hall. She looked at the door and saw white skin, black leg hair, and a small piece of cloth in the middle. It was clear at a glance whether it was big or small. "Teske, what an eyesore. Why are you still looking at it?" Zishang turned Yunjioga's head back and pulled her away. Behind him, a small breeze blew, and countless small pieces of cloth fell, causing countless female disciples to scream excitedly. Chapter 359. Yunjioga entered the Een Chi cemetery with the token in hand. With a single glance, he saw two groups of outer disciples confronting each other. One group was the low-level disciples of Peak 2. The leader was a disciple called Shinfeng, who had a good relationship with Little Fatty. The other group was the high-level disciples of Peak 3. They were smiling nastily at Shinfeng and said, hand over the yin qi bottle obediently, and we can spare your lives. Don't go too far, Chen Feng said angrily. Recently, they had been constantly troubled by the high-level disciples of Peak 1 and 3. Especially those from Peak 3, who entered the yin qi cemetery without doing any work. Instead, they were waiting to rob them. They had risked their lives to obtain the yin qi. Without the yin qi, they couldn't cultivate. They couldn't even pay the basic contribution points. This was no different from forcing them to death. So what if I bully you guys? Those high-level disciples laughed. Enough, less nonsense. Just grab it and leave. I'm busy. The other high-level disciples did not say anything else. They took out their bone spikes and charged at Chen Feng. Formation, Chen Feng shouted and took the initiative to attack with his frosty yin qi palm. The other low-level disciples attacked as well. The white frosty yin qi and yin qi intertwined, blocking all the attacks from the high-level disciples. Their training in the little arcana realm was not for naught. They had perfected this move, and its power was extraordinary. Unfortunately, they had exhausted too much spiritual energy in the yin qi cemetery. Soon, a hole appeared in their defense formation. Kill them. The morale of the Peak 3 disciples was high. More than 10 bone spikes charged toward Chen Feng. Chen Feng's face paled. His life was in danger. Suddenly, something happened. Suddenly, numerous gray vines shot out from the grayish-brown ground under the Peak 3 disciples' feet, trapping them on the spot. Retreat! Chen Feng immediately led his group and started running. They maintained their formation quite well. From the looks of it, they were well trained. Yun Jioga saw that Chen Feng's group was almost done running, so she prepared to retract the gray vines. Zi Shang looked at Yun Jioga, puzzled. Why not kill them? There's always the next batch after killing them. There's no need. Although Yun Jioga had heard that the disciples of Peak 2 were being bullied because of her, she still felt bad seeing it with her own eyes. Releasing a tiger back into the mountains will only bring about endless trouble in the future. Zi Shang's expression was one of disapproval. After this batch of high-ranking disciples went out, they would only become more aggressive in bullying those low-ranking disciples. I only said that I wouldn't kill them, but I didn't say that I would let them off so easily. Yun Jioga revealed a sly smile. With a flick of his finger, several grades landed on the bodies of those high-ranking disciples. This was a paralysis powder. It would take effect in an hour. If they behaved themselves, they would be fine, but once they used their spiritual power, their whole body would be paralyzed and they wouldn't be able to move. If he went to find trouble with those low-level disciples on the second peak, he would only end up getting beaten up. Yun Jioga clapped his hands and continued walking towards the inner circle. The withered vines and dead trees in the inner circle were filled with wandering level 2 yin ghosts. They would rush over as soon as they smelled the scent of humans. The little skeleton monkey hanging on her waist looked as if it had nothing left to live for. It hung its neck motionlessly. This is very likely to be the last time we enter the yin energy cemetery. Are you sure you don't want to eat to your heart's content? Yun Jioga took out 4 bone spurs and killed a group of yin ghosts like skewering candied haws. After advancing to Qi Disciple Stage 6, her spiritual power circulation became smoother and her control of the bone spurs became more precise. Unfortunately, she still couldn't fly on her tool. When the little skeleton monkey heard Yun Jioga's words, it instantly came back to life. It climbed onto her shoulder with its hands and feet and opened its mouth to absorb yin energy desperately. The two of them, one killing and one absorbing, were extremely efficient. Gradually, they walked into the depths of the inner circle. Yun Jioga killed until dusk and returned with a full load. At this time, the naked man at the entrance of the mission hall was already gone. The disciple in charge of handing over missions respectfully helped her record the mission. He didn't even dare to let out a fart. After Yun Jioga used her contribution points to exchange for the herbs to concoct the Yin Meridian Protection Pill, she returned to the sect's main peak. In the distance, she saw Jin Chuan standing in front of her cave with a gloomy face. There was even a little fatty following behind him. He was constantly giving her a meaningful look, as if something bad had happened. "Senior brother Jin Chuan, how come you have the time to visit my humble home? Yun Jioga pretended not to see the little fatty's eyes as she coldly greeted Jin Chuan. Did you do what happened in the mission hall today? Jin Chuan asked with a straight face. What does senior brother mean? Yun Jioga had an innocent face. We are all fellow disciples. Even if there was a quarrel, you can't hang them up there and humiliate them. Jin Chuan was very angry. Just now, a bunch of disciples had come over to complain about their humiliations, forcing him to come and seek justice. It was all Yun Jioga's fault. I'm wrongly accused, I'm only in the Chi disciple stage, how could I have the ability to humiliate those foundation establishment stage senior brothers? If you don't believe me, you can ask the senior brothers and sisters who gave out the mission. I didn't move a single finger from beginning to end. Yun Jioga swore that what she said was the truth. You didn't move, then what about your Yin corpse? Jin Chuan knew that Yun Jioga didn't have this ability, but who told her to have such an amazing person by her side? I don't know about this, how about I call him out and you ask him yourself? Yun Jioga had never given Zishang an order to humiliate people, so she didn't want to take the blame for this. Uncle, I believe that senior brother Yun Jioga is innocent. Is there a misunderstanding here? Little Fatty carefully tried to smooth things over. What misunderstanding could there be? It was just those cheap-mouthed disciples ganging up to deal with Yun Jioga, but they were slapped in the face instead. Jin Chuan was very clear on this point. He only came here today to show his attitude. He wasn't stupid enough to negotiate with a 1,000-year-old corpse. We'll just forget about this matter, you just need to be a bit more obedient in the future. Jin Chuan drew a full stop. Senior brother Jin Chuan, you can be assured, I'm going into closed-door cultivation. I won't come out until I reach the foundation establishment stage. Yun Jioga promised. Closed-door cultivation again? Jin Chuan knit his brows and said, although you have the help of your Yin corpse, it's unknown how long it'll take for you to reach the foundation establishment stage. In another half a year is our Yin corpse sex fiend corpse slaying event. You have to come out and participate at that time. But I'm only a Qi condensation stage disciple. Yun Jioga felt a headache just hearing about the secret realm. Every peak has to send out 2 people. The 3 great elders have asked you to represent our sect's main peak. Elder Mo Hua has already said that if you don't go, you'll be violating the sect's rules. If it's light, you'll be sent back to the outer sect. If it's heavy, you'll be kicked out of the Yin Corpse sect. Jin Chuan telling Yun Jioga this news ahead of time was already very benevolent. Many thanks for senior brother Jin Chuan's reminder, I understand. Yun Jioga nodded his head to show that he understood. You're on your own. Jin Chuan waved his sleeve and left. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.